Hey, what's going on, everyone? How y'all doing? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater. Today is Sunday, the 27th of May, 2018, and of course, if you were at the theaters at all this weekend, you might have gone and seen Solo: A Star Wars Story. And I hope you did. I hope you did. If not, if you're here and there's spoilers, this is entirely your fault. If there's an issue here with that, and you get something spoiled for you, because there's gonna be lots of spoilers here, and we will definitely be talking about it all, as well as even like the box office response to this sort of thing, and maybe what went wrong and what happened and everything else. And so I think it's going to be fun, and I do want to open it up to people to call in and be able to get in on the action that way, which we'll be doing that here maybe in about, like, I don't know, a little bit, and that will be through the Discord, which I do believe is linked below. The Discord is, discord.me/mundane Matt. If any of the mods are in here and want to help out in that regard, putting the word out there, that would be fantastic. So we will definitely give this a minute, and then we will jump into it here when more people come on in. There's 26 of you in here now, and this is going to be a lot of fun. I love the 5 dislikes on the video already. Come on, we're talking about the movie. If you don't like it, if you saw it and you don't like it, and you want to you want to discuss it, now's the time. Discord.me/mundane Matt. Head into the green room, and we'll be able to talk. So hey, what's going on? What's going on? Midnight Sage After Dark. You know you're gonna want to get in on this shit, right? Like, you're gonna want to get in on this. We're gonna have a fun one, because I know you guys apparently aren't a fan. That I was not. Am I in focus? Did it go in focus? Okay. Yeah, I'm having issues. If you see me doing a lot of stuff recently with um with that, it's because something with my lens, it's going out of focus. So that might happen frequently. Let me know in the comments, and I'll be able to fix it. But until then, we're definitely doing this thing. Oh, let me just get rid of that, so I look more professional. I don't just have a shirt behind me. So Robert, you've already seen Solo 3 times. That's awesome, dude. So the theater was half empty. Well, there's theories I have on that one too, because my theater was full, but my theater was also later on showing. There was the earlier screenings, and then I saw one like at 740 in 3D. Usually there's like a 7 or a 720, and those are all sold out. Wait, Andre, I haven't watched Andre's review yet. Andre actually liked it. That's crazy, dude. I didn't think he would. But hey, if you want in on this, dude, jump in Discord. Head over to discord.me/mundane Matt, and then come on in and go into the green room, and we will definitely get on that one here. We'll do call-ins in a little bit. We're going to go through it. So I just want to start off by saying, for one, I really liked the movie. Was it perfect? No, of course not. There were noticeable issues, pacing and some story stuff. But that being said, it to me felt so straightforward that, like, I was entertained the entire time. One of the things that I really enjoyed about it was the linearity of it, right? It was not like, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, where it was like, okay, we have 3 groups of people, right? So we're following Rey, we're following Kylo, we're following Finn, and then also we're following Poe. And so it's at that point 4 groups of people, really, even though the Kylo and Rey were pretty much tied together. But still, that's so much happening at the time that you're like trying to jump around. Now, Avengers Infinity War was able to handle that with I want to call, like, expert precision, simply because they were able to make it work. And they also told a really good story, and nothing ever stopped the plot dead in its tracks. That would be Canto Bight. I will never, ever, 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 ever forgive Rian Johnson for Canto Bight, because that scene totally fucking sucked. I Heart Sushi. There's that Streamlabs. Hold on, let me double check. It might be on this one. The tips are there. The tips are still there. But I'm not getting a notification. Let me double check that real quick as we're talking. The 3D did not work well. The 3D was fine. It was serviceable. But what I mean by that is the movie itself is so dark. And as a result of it being so dark, it becomes hard to see, right? So when it becomes dark like that, it ends up, okay. So basically, sorry, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. 3D films require the bulb to put out a lot of light. And so the bulb is really working overtime. And if the bulb starts to dim, and there's really dark sequences, it becomes very difficult to see. The best way to describe this would be if you heard about the whole controversy with Black Panther coming out of China, where Chinese filmgoers were just like, the movie's too black. And that was a big controversy here in the States because people thought that they were being racist, right? They thought that they're like, oh, these Chinese people just hate black people. It's not the case at all, actually. What really happened, what legitimately happened, was the fact that the 3D, if you read the comment, they were watching the movie in 3D, and like the last sequence of that movie is very dark and everything else, and as a result of that, it ends up becoming very difficult to see. So it becomes too black, too dark, and that was where we saw this thing play out. So that's definitely an issue there. Okay, so thank you very much for Hypothesis for the super chat, or for the Streamlabs. Let me just double check that whole thing, make sure it's working. All right, I just want to make sure it's going to be on screen here. That definitely works. Okay. And for some reason, it's not popping up on screen. Let me just get the alert box going here. Okay, donation subscribers. Okay, we're gonna add that in right quick. We're gonna add that browser source into OBS just to make sure that it works. Where's browser? Okay, Streamlabs. All right. Yep, that's on screen because I do this shit live. Okay, so it should work now. It should work now. It's the number one top there. Okay. But yeah, basically, so it's like BVS dark. Yeah. So it's like, BVS in 3D would have been horrible if the bulb didn't work properly. So in the case of Solo, seeing it in 3D wasn't worth it in my opinion. It wasn't worth the extra money, but it didn't take away from the overall experience. That being said, yeah, I plan on seeing it again, but I don't plan on paying the extra cash for it in that regard. And I definitely am more happy to watch the movie a second time versus The Last Jedi, which I still haven't been able to bring myself to watch again. So it's nice weather in California. It's great weather in California. I'm in Washington. It's beautiful out today. So there's that. Let's see. Andrew here says, I really like the movie, but I hate what they did with Lando. The love affair with the robot was a bit much. Well, that kind of ties in, I think, to the pansexuality of it all. That was what I think that they were ultimately going for when that comment came up, because what I think was the interviewer who mentioned the pansexuality mentioned to Jonathan Kasdan, and Kasdan responded in probably like the most broad way that he could, which is like, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's not the binary male, female gender. So in this particular case, being attracted to a robot would make him more pan, not necessarily robosexual, but like more pan as a result of that. And so I would say that, the love affair situation with L337, well, I actually kind of liked it. I thought it worked out well. It's that kind of like, he hates certain things of her, but it's a complicated relationship, but apparently they had sex, which I thought was really interesting that the joke made it in there. So Revenge of the Fans, I wouldn't call it Revenge of the Fans. It's definitely not as crazy as that, but there's things with that too. Jack here for $5 says, can we talk about Glover as Lando? Damn, he lived with the Williams suave magnetism. Also about that Hawaiian print shirt was the bomb. Yeah, I liked the Hawaiian thing at the end. I thought that was pretty good. And I like that he got the ship at the end. I like that he was able to get one over on Lando. And I thought Glover did a great job. Glover was fantastic in the movie. Even Alden I thought was really good. I thought Alden was pretty great. So there's that. Let's see here. So Solo made 148 million globally. Well, has it opened in all markets yet? Let me take a look here. Oops, that's the wrong one. I don't take away from the chat on screen. So I don't think it was a total failure. So there's thumbs down. The rapper, you gotta sit there and let me know why it went down 5. Kim Jong Go Boom thing. Oh shit, I'm fucking doing that again. It's gonna do this a couple times. Just let me know. I don't know what's going on with that shit. It's been happening recently. I got to take it off of autofocus, but it helps out when trying to work. So the first act was cringe-inducing. The dialogue was clunky, and the scenes between Solo and the female lead were bad. The first 20 minutes of the narrative structure took a little bit of time, but when they got to the spaceport, I thought that's when it started really kind of kicking in. I know the whole Oliver Twist kind of opening was a little bit odd. Like when I'm watching the movie, I'm just going like, what? Like this feels like it's a bit Oliver Twisty, like it's a bit cliche, but I also didn't mind it so much. I would have liked there have been a little bit more exposition as to who Lady Proxima was, because that was like, again, that was in bold letters as the opening fanfare happened, or in the little opening. So there would have been like some kind of background story. It said, as Grace Randolph put it, Lady Fagin. CNN Money just said Disney had to lower their expectations to 105 to 115 million. They did. But let's touch upon that real quick. So let's talk about the financials here, because that's what like a lot of the haters, the Soylo people out there are saying. Deadpool 2 clocked in an additional $42 million this weekend. So Deadpool 2 going into its second weekend, it had a 77% drop, which is, it feels like it's about average these days, but that was going to be the case. The reason why Deadpool moved itself forward 2 weeks was to get out of the way of Star Wars. They didn't want to be caught in that second week hit. So now what we've seen is Deadpool clocking in the 150 million opening weekend and then dropping to 42 million. That took away a lot from people who were going to go see Solo. So I would argue that next weekend, because nothing really comes out next week, nothing really until June 8th with Ocean's 8, is maybe going to see, I'm not saying it's going to sit there and gross like more money, but I think the drop off will probably be less than before. I think what we're seeing is a lot of positive word of mouth with people who went into it expecting it to suck. I've seen so many people go into it expecting it to suck, coming out saying, no, it was actually all right. It was actually okay. And then telling all their friends that, which then has gotten other people to go, oh, well, maybe I'll go check it out now. So there's clearly some problems here. So did you want Lady Proxima's dialogue to remain alien with subtitles? I did. Yeah, Edward, I did. I thought that would be, I always feel like if it's a non-humanoid, probably having subtitles would be best just for the immersion factor. Like Jon Favreau's Rio, I thought was great, but at the same time, I would have very much preferred him to have, I would say, like maybe some more, this is going to sound kind of bad, but more maybe ethnicity to the dialogue. Remember Watto from Phantom Menace? Like, not that bad, and not Chinese, not the Chinese Trade Federation, not that bad, and not Jar Jar bad. Those are the bad sides of where it's at. Those are where you don't want it to go. But ultimately, it's somewhere maybe a little bit more on the, there's maybe region specific, so to speak. Upgrade comes out June 1st. I really want to see Upgrade, but there's that. But yeah, all right. Remember, if you guys, we will be doing open call, live call-ins in the Discord. I got a few people in there right now. That's discord.me/mundane Matt. Mods, if you guys are here and you want to put that in the chat, that'd be very helpful. It wasn't a cinematic abortion like The Last Jedi doesn't mean that it was good. It was serviceable. That's the whole point. I think they just wanted to get it out of the gate. Right. I think they just wanted to get it across the finish line and have it not be a completely unmitigated disaster. And it's not an unmitigated disaster. It's not a perfect film, but it's also very much one of those ones that was kind of going on an uphill battle. You had the controversy from last summer, because it's been almost a year since it was announced that Phil Lord and Chris Miller were booted off the project, right? It's been almost a damn year. And as a result of that, there ended up being a lot of controversy saying like, oh, this movie's going to suck now because I have to reshoot everything. But we heard the same thing with Rogue One. They had the reshoots on Rogue One, and that ended up being a cause for this, like, oh, the movie's going to suck. But ultimately, I think Rogue One turned out just fine. And reshoots are never really a bad thing. Some things just don't work. They work well on paper, they work well in storyboards, but when you shoot it and when you get it in place, you realize that it's just not 100% the way that you wanted it, and that's why they allot for these sort of things. Now, the interesting thing, too, is Michael White, is that his name, was really going to be Dresden, but then they shot all of his stuff, but then reshoots complicated, conflicted with the schedule, so he had to drop out, and Paul Bettany came in. Which I thought Bettany did a good job too. I would have liked to have seen the other guy though. So let's see. L3 is literally C-3PO plus sex toy. No, L3 is Tumblr feminist plus sex toy. Andrew, The Last Jedi sucked. Solo was far better. I definitely agree. I do. I just feel like it was a better movie because it was, again, straightforward, and there was no like, let's go and like deal with 28,000 characters. Let's see. Why did the ginger rubber girl on the beach attack the train if it turned out they're on the same side? Because I think at the time they didn't know, right? So Enfys Nest and her band of marauders, they had gone up against Tobias Beckett multiple times, right? And they were also going hunting for the same thing. And so Enfys knew that Dryzen had hired Tobias through Crimson Dawn to get this fuel, and that was what they wanted it. Now they wanted it in order to, they had 60 million credits worth of stuff in order to basically start the damn rebellion or to finance the rebellion right off the bat. And that I thought was pretty cool too, but that's why they could have maybe done a bit more expository there. But what was up with that? It looked like she took off the helmet and I'm all like, hey, it's Merida. That's where we are right now. We're in Brave. Rogue One is orders of magnitude better than Solo. Probably. I mean, overall, as far as a film goes, yes, I think Rogue One is better than Solo, but I still really enjoyed it. Rogue One sucked minus the ending. Nah, I disagree. So compared to Rogue One, how'd it fare? Well, Rogue One again was like, I think was a better. I think Rogue One didn't have as rushed of a production. They overshot so much stuff, so they had a lot more stuff to play with in terms of what they brought to the screen. But I think that Rogue One's a bit better. Solo is still up there with it, and better than Last Jedi. So talk about Star Trek. Yeah, not happening right now, man. I yield this boycott future Lucasfilm projects with Rian Johnson. I think that is probably the best course of action. Here's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I'm thinking that come Monday, we're going to end up seeing, or come Tuesday, because Monday's a holiday, Kathleen Kennedy is going to be reprimanded pretty heavily, I think, by Bob Iger and Alan Horn because the movie failed to meet expectations, and she is the person leading the ship. I have a feeling that if that does happen, Kathleen Kennedy does very much does kind of have this bubble of influence or protection around her from the bloggers that are going to come out and they're going to be defending her, saying that it wasn't her fault, that she did the best she could do, she made the wrong choice, right? And I don't think Kathleen Kennedy will ultimately take the steps necessary to rectify the ship. Of course, the whether or not Bob Iger and Alan Horn decide to really force her to get a lieutenant, as Grace Randolph said, and she suggested Dave Filoni, but Filoni's going to be working on Star Wars Resistance, so will he have the time to showrun an animated series as well as be basically the second in command of Lucasfilm to kind of right the ship in terms of where to take the projects? And I don't think that's going to happen. Grace also suggested that Episode 9 will be pushed back in order to have them go back and kind of retool things to make sure that it works. I don't think this is going to happen either. I think they've already set the hard release date for it, and that's ultimately going to go forward. I think they just want to finish up the Skywalker saga. J.J. Abrams is the best person to bring it in, and they're hoping that it will do better than The Last Jedi. Ultimately, the way I view it is this: I don't think it will, and that has a lot to do with the fact that the Last Jedi has just not. In 6 months since its release, has not done well with the fans. I would argue that a lot of people that are boycotting Solo are doing it strictly because of The Last Jedi and not looking at the film as being an independent product, which I think that they should. The Rapper 1000 says here, fire Kathleen Kennedy. I think she should step down, or she needs to hire a Star Wars czar. Right? She can focus on whatever else Lucasfilm is up to, which, let's face it, is nothing. Right? They haven't talked about any. Indiana Jones and maybe now Willow 2. We're hearing talks to Willow 2, but with the movie failing to happen, right, or failing to perform in the opening weekend, I don't think Willow 2 is gonna get off the ground at all. So I have a feeling that what's gonna happen is, or what they should do is they should take her and say, you need to bring someone in to run Star Wars, like Kevin Feige runs Marvel Studios. Get someone to come in there and really plot out where they want it to go. And I have a feeling that is going to end up being the Game of Thrones guys. I think with their particular their series, because it's not just a trilogy like Rian Johnson's getting, they're getting a series. And I think that's going to end up really bringing this strong story-based structure to Star Wars that's going to play out over a phase, very similar to Marvel. I have a feeling that's what we're going to see. They're going to establish an arc, establish characters, set an end goal, and then lead to it over the span of 5 films. So there's that. JJ, RJ, and KK need to go. JJ can stay. The other 2 I'm okay with. But JJ, come on, man. JJ can stay. JJ can stay. KK needs to keep the agenda out of Star Wars. Yeah, probably. So, A New Hope was made in 77 is still more exciting than Rogue One. Let's see here. Okay, hold on. Cruiser Brony asks, where do I stand on the people did not want this argument? People did not want this argument because, according to research, people don't know what they have until they have it. I kind of agree with that. I think people, I don't think there was like necessarily a huge fan push for this, but I do think that ultimately people were probably more on board than not. It was like, well, I'll check it out. You know what I mean? Like, I'll check it out. But then we had like the Alden Ehrenreich controversy, which I think he did a very good job. Actually, I really liked him in the role. I was a little afraid that I wasn't going to, but I ultimately did. And I think that, again, I think this movie is one that's going to age well as time goes on. By the time episode 9 comes out, I do think this one will be held in a bit higher regard. So, you see, you think Dave Filoni is the Feige that Lucasfilm needs? Kennedy could stay head of Lucasfilm, but Filoni needs to be the creative leader. I agree. No, I agree, Fall of the 11th. I absolutely agree. I think what Filoni did with Rebels, I mean, you know, bringing like, you know, giving us Maul the way they gave us Maul, and then bringing Maul into Solo is just insane. Like, I legit was squealing when I saw this. Like, I was the only one in the theater, I think, who really kind of figured it out. But I was like, no way, no fucking way, they fall, oh my God. You know, I think my girlfriend was like, would you shut the hell up right now? Jesus. So, but no, I believe Filoni needs to come in. I believe Filoni can do it. And I think fans, like, basically, here's the thing. You got to go to Bob Iger. You got to go to Alan Horn and push for this. This is where things have to go. If the YouTubers that are anti-Star Wars where they're at right now, they can't just be like, fire Kathleen Kennedy, because the movie bloggers aren't going to back their sentiment. They're not. They're just not. Their political ideology, their ideologue narratives, those are things they're gonna stand by, as we saw with The Last Jedi and like Ghostbusters and something like that. But what they need to do is like basically go to Bob Iger, create a letter writing campaign to him. That's not hard to do, and basically say, we want change. And if Iger is disappointed in Kennedy at all, given the fact that right now she's been wounded by this particular failings in the opening box office, that's going to basically really help kind of usher in some change. But it requires fans to go to Filoni, or sorry, go to Iger or go to Alan Horn and make the case directly to them. You know, don't pass go, or, you know, don't go to, or whatever the hell it is. Just go right to the fucking top. Why are people wanting JJ to come back? Because JJ at least played in the sandbox. He at least made it feel like the sandbox. You know, JJ is a prodigy of Spielberg. Spielberg and Lucas go way back. I mean, he's a good guy to do this. And I feel like, you know, he had plotted out something that I think was going to be very similar to what Lucas would have done, or what in the vein of what Lucas would have done. And that is, I think, one thing that fans wanted. Even if episode 7 wasn't the highest mark, it still was serviceable, and it still kind of set this groundwork. And then Last Jedi came in and burned it all to the ground for no other reason than for Ben Swolo. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Why do I think the bloggers will defend her? Because of the fact that the Force is female. And that's the narrative she's put forward. That's the narrative she's presented. And after Ghostbusters, and after the whole thing about that, that's where they're going to stand on it. So, let's see. Since Ehrenreich has a multi-picture deal and we've had a Fett movie confirmed, could he possibly appear in a Fett film? Yes. I think what we're going to see is Solo is going to do well enough to get a sequel, and they're going to probably retool it from the ground up in terms of like how to present it and make sure the right director and everything else. Probably won't come for 3 years. But we're going to get it. It's going to have Jabba the Hutt. It's going to have Boba Fett. And that's going to either lead into a Fett film, or it's going to to succeed a Fett film as a way to establish Fett as working with the Hutts, being a bounty hunter, doing whatever he does, and how he kind of weaves in and out. Because at the opening of Solo, when they talk about the crime syndicates have taken over, that is clearly the generation they're going to be in. What Lucasfilm is going to focus on, as I think they're going to focus on a lot of the pre-rebellion days, right? Rebels was a really good way to kind of like explore that timeline. And I think that's where they're going to start. And I think they're going to go from there. It gives us an ancillary tale leading up to A New Hope without being episodic. So it allows us to really get the meat between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. And I think that's going to be pretty cool. Did Vader force choke Jar Jar to death in this film? No. Unfortunately, Jacqueline, that did not happen. And that's because Jar Jar Binks is really Snoke. So there's that. So you don't think that there was really a boycott? There really wasn't a boycott. It's just it's a holiday weekend that hasn't done well in years. It's, Disney wanted to retake this because this was the Friday was the 41st anniversary of Star Wars. They wanted to take it, but Star Wars owns the Christmas season, and they should stuck with that. Solo should have come out in December. If it came out in December, we would not be having this discussion right now. It wouldn't be having this low numbers. It would have because the sting, the bad taste of The Last Jedi in many fans' mouths would have had a chance to go away. Even Mark Hamill criticized it for coming out as early as it did. So, what's going on, Magog? How are you, buddy? Let's see here. Did I notice how troopers during Solo's Imperial mission looked a bit like Kylo? No, I didn't. I did not. So what's Memorial Day for? Apparently the military, but in this particular case, a movie. Okay, do I think people are trying to get KK fired will face a civil war among fans? I think no. I think if she left, I think the fans, like the diehard original, because okay, all you have to do to get the diehard original fans on board is just basically go like, Kathleen Kennedy killed the expanded universe. Right? Get that thing rolling, and people will straight up, they will absolutely 100% turn, because people love the EU. I talked to a friend of mine yesterday who saw Solo, and he was apprehensive, but he really liked it, and he was like, oh man, they added in so many things from the EU, showing that level of nostalgia, but harkening back to things that true fans, diehard fans would know who read the books, works really, really, really well in establishing where this movie sits in terms of just the timeline and as a Star Wars film. And I think that's one of the big points. I think that's one of the big things that they're going to have to do in the future. Let's see here. How much do I think the incident with the directors had an impact on the film? I think it did, because they were rushed to meet a release date. Ron Howard reshot 70% of the film between July and a few months ago, or whatever. So he reshot most of the movie, and that was a rush job. And you could tell watching it that there was only a couple setups. You could tell that they were really kind of racing through some dialogue, and it didn't bother me because I feel the movie happened at relatively breakneck speed, which I felt like, again, it worked for the linearity of the project. But I still need to go see it again. I actually might go see it again tomorrow. So back to Solo. Since Maul is back in charge of Kira, where would the person like the story to go next? Okay, here's what I want. I thought about making this as its own standalone video and shit, but so here's what I want in Solo 2, Solo Dos Solo, right? I'd be okay with that. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking, right? So the end of Solo. By the way, spoilers if you don't already know this, but the end of Solo, Kira is now in charge of Crimson Dawn. She did this, I think, as a way to protect Han. I think she did it as a way to not only protect herself, but to protect Han. And then at that point, you watch, Han watches her fly away, and you kind of see that once again, that abandoning. He's kind of, he's been without her for years. He finally got her back. She's gone. So maybe some walls are coming up. But I don't think in his heart, because she said he's one of the good guys, even though he doesn't kind of deem himself that. But he sees, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a redemption arc. Because Star Wars is good for having a redemption arc, right? Star Wars is really, really, really good for that. So if they do this whole thing, Kira's in charge of Crimson Dawn. Now, we know that Solo is going to go work with Jabba. We know that was very hinted at, going over and working in Tatooine, working with the Hutts and everything else. And I'm pretty sure they're going to maybe run into some stuff with Crimson Dawn or the other crime syndicates. So Kira's, I think, going to be trying to ward off Darth Maul from trying to figure out who they are or anything else. And so it's going to be a big thing with that, where they're still going to be known as smugglers. They're still going to be doing this kind of work. But at the same time, they are going to have to be maybe running from the Crimson Dawn and running from Maul and what's coming down the pipeline. So I don't really have necessarily a story, but I would argue that it's probably going to end up being something along the lines of another heist sort of thing. But, is it going to end up being like saving Chewie's family? Because that was kind of hinted at with this one. Chewie's still looking for his tribe. There were Wookiees that he saved, but we don't know if those are the Wookiees. I think it was like Skagwa was the name of the one Wookiee. If those were part of his tribe or just Wookiees he was freeing, right? They didn't really establish that too much. So I think that's going to be a thing. And I think working with Lando once again is going to be a thing. And going on those adventures and working with all that kind of stuff. Because remember, if you look at Tobias Beckett in the movie, he had Jabba's guard, right? He had the Jabba's guard armor, right? Or that could have been the Crimson Dawn armor at the time. And so that's what they were using in order to get past the guards at the mines. And so that was on the Millennium Falcon, which makes me really wonder if if that's going to end up being there, if Lando's going to pull that out, because Lando had it in, Return of the Jedi and stuff. So is it a thing? Is it going to be using that? And now is that where he gets that and uses it to infiltrate something? Is it going to be like a costume, like his kind of bat costume and stuff, bat suit sort of thing? So I don't know. I don't quite know what they have planned for it. They set up a world, right? They set up a bit of a world. And considering the fact that at the end of Solo, we know it's the restart of the rebellion. We know that it's around the timeline of Star Wars Rebels, maybe a couple years before. It's about, 9 years from my estimation between, I don't know if I'm right on this one, but I feel it's around like 9 to 10 years before the events of A New Hope. And I think at that point in time, they're very much going to like deal with the rebellion. And it's possible that they're going to have a lot of run-ins with other characters. I just really don't want Obi-Wan to show up, because I heard that from people like, oh, what if Obi-Wan shows up in the next Solo movie? We don't really want that, because, they meet in Tatooine. I'm sure maybe there could be something that could tie it together. Cause if he goes to Tatooine, he's probably going to end up having some encounter with Obi-Wan through some extent, maybe a hooded figure making a comment or something, those kind of Easter eggs. But, and we're probably going to see maybe a little Luke Skywalker or something, because those things are going to be in it, right? Those things are going to be in it. But this is kind of a wish list of things I'd like to see happen. I don't have a general story. If you wanted me to sit down and like plot out a beginning, middle, and end of a potential Solo 2, I could do that. But I think that if they give us the character trying to pull off heists and make a name for himself in the galaxy, then that's going to be, or at least the name of the Millennium Falcon, because, obviously talks it up and everything else. So I have a feeling that's going to kind of be it. But at this point, I'm just kind of still hoping we get a sequel, given how the movie fared this opening weekend. So let me bring up the stuff here. Okay. Maul could not die in Solo 2 or 3 then. Maul does eventually die, but we'd have to figure out where it's at between, some timelines. I don't want to spoil some stuff if people aren't familiar with the cartoons. So there's that. Let's see. Okay, not sure if I share the same opinion, but you think Boba Fett movie would have much more potential if it was based after Jedi and not before A New Hope? Yeah, I think that would probably have a bit, I think that'd have more potential, but at the same time, it's like where, like after Jedi would be interesting, because then he could be trying to hunt down Solo, right? But at the same time, we know Solo survives, so it really wouldn't be that necessary. But him becoming a rising bounty hunter and everything else. And here's the thing, I do think that they are going to have him and Solo become friends. I do think that, because in Empire, and I've said this before, but in Empire, I always kind of felt like Boba Fett knew who Solo was and knew the way he think and used that to track him down. I think that's because they worked together with Jar Jar, or not Jar Jar, with Jabba, and I think they knew each other, and I think he knew how he thought. And so that's, or maybe they're going to be rivals, and they're going to be rivals within Jabba's encampment, trying to do jobs, because obviously Boba Fett's not against killing. So maybe Han is against killing, and that's kind of where they rival each other. He's going to be the bloodthirsty one, and then Solo's going to be like, look, let's do the job, but let's not kill anyone on the way out, sort of thing. And that could be a subject and that would actually be a very interesting dynamic. It would actually give a lot more weight to some stuff maybe within Empire, but then of course without the direct acknowledgement of Han to Boba when they see each other, it would probably maybe have a little bit of lost impact. But at the same time, looking at the idea there of the two of them talking, or when Boba's there for him specifically to take him back to Jabba, then that would then set up that if Jabba's like, bring me Han Solo, that whole thing, then that would set, Boba on the mission, which would then really go, oh, and then he worked his way into the Empire. Oh, okay. I think that bridge could be connected, and that would be pretty cool if they did it. Did I recall a scene with Ron Howard's brother? I did. Rey's parents are Han and Kira. No, that wouldn't work, man. That wouldn't work. She's like 18 or whatever, man. That wouldn't work, because she's young, and it was 30 years past Return of the Jedi or something like that. So it's like, it wouldn't work. The timing wouldn't work there. Yeah, no disintegrations. Exactly. Waiting for the disintegrations. So when KK is fired, do I think Star Wars needs to do an Empire trilogy of a gray area? I would love to see. I'd love to see a story from within the Empire, telling that, like maybe it could, But the thing is, though, you never want to play the Empire in a hero's light, so they'd have to have some reason to kind of break it down. Amelia Clark as a Sith payload, I would be pretty hot. I'm just saying that would be hot. I'd be 100% on board with that one, because that'd be pretty attractive. All right, so let me take a quick look here at the Discord. Oh shit. Okay. All right. So again, jumping in the green room, I'm going to post the link in the chat if you guys want to jump in on that one here. All right. We'll make our way to that here pretty soon. If I could type in this, there we go. All right. And okay. So yeah, you guys can join my Discord and do all that. We'll get to the calls here in a minute. So let me just peruse the chat again. I have too many windows open right now. Okay, but Chewie met Yoda, and Solo would have heard about the Force's ability. Yeah, that's one of those things where it's kind of like, maybe Chewie just never told Han. Maybe Han just doesn't believe, even though, like, who knows? There's always going to be something along those lines. Nothing is ever going to be perfectly going to sink into it. So there's going to be some concessions, which is arguably not going to make everybody happy. Let's see. Rey's parents are Stacy, Pink 5, and Luke. No. Okay. Han said he's seen a lot in the universe, but he doesn't believe in one all-powerful force. Not that he didn't believe it. Okay, not in one all-powerful. Okay, so that would be good. So maybe he's seen religion, but he doesn't necessarily believe the one true religion, the Jedi. What's going on, Jake? But yeah, Tiao Piak. Yeah, again, concessions will be made in that particular regards. I think we're going to be okay on that one. But let's take a look here. All right. Okay, does the Maul cameo throw into question media like Toons, Rebels, comics? See, they had Whitweir and Park back. Was it Ray Park in the in character? Was that Ray Park? Because I didn't see that. Actually, I feel bad too, because I feel like I should have seen that. I feel like I should have totally done that. But let's see here. Okay, was Ray Park Solo? Was that him? Okay, so let's take a look here. All right. Okay, Darth Maul. Hold on, I'm looking to see. Okay, who's playing him around? All right, so, well, the actor... oh, yeah, Ray Park did reprise the role, and then Sam Witwer... Oh, that's so cool. That to me is so freaking cool that they did that. I'm so happy that they did that, because Ray Park is awesome. And I also really liked that. Oh yeah. Sebastian Stan as Luke, as a young Luke. I'd be okay with that. Yeah, see, that's a good combination right there. And I'm pretty sure Ray Park is like not too happy about it, but I think he's okay. Let's see here. Would I be down to see Sebastian Stan play younger Luke? Yes, I would actually, and they look quite a bit alike. And even though the episodic, the Skywalker saga in terms of episodes is gonna go away next year, it's gonna be done. I do think we are going to see like young Luke movies, and the reason why I think we're going to see that is because they're going to run out of ideas. I think they're going to run out of a couple ideas that they want to run through. So they're going to sit there and say, yeah, we're doing a young Luke. What if the Rian Johnson movies are actually a young Luke trilogy? Or a post-Jedi trilogy. God, I think I would boycott. I think I would boycott everything. You can tell it was Ray Park because Maul had gained weight. Well, it's been 19 years. But then again, we don't know how long it's been from Phantom Menace to then. We don't have a specific timeline. But it had been a while. It had been a little bit. So Ray Park needs to get back to the gym and train a lot more, but still that cameo was pretty tight. The cameo was pretty goddamn tight. You have to admit that. It was pretty good. Let's see. I put the timeline after the Solo movie had a cameo there. We don't know how long it's... Oops. There we go. I had to refresh the page. So, all right. Okay. So only a couple of you guys right now are in the green room. Again, if you guys want to come in and chat, come on in and chat. We'll take a couple calls right now and see. We'll see what's going on. All right, so let's we'll bring in some people, and let me just get my headphones in and make sure everything is all hunky dory on that end. The TV series will be post Jedi. Yeah, the TV series will be post Jedi. So you think Maul will make a comeback in the post series, trying to take over or do his stuff, do his Sith stuff after the end of that one? Okay, let me bring in Spirit Man Studios here. So Spirit Man, if you're ready, let's do this. Hey, what's up, man? You're live.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing all right on this fine Sunday morning.
Well, it's Sunday morning. It's afternoon. It's almost 2 p.m. at least Pacific Standard.
Morning. Oops. I just looked at my clock. It's like 1:44.
Exactly. You liar. You dirty liar. So did you go see? You saw Solo, right?
Solo. I didn't go see it opening night because I was at a Weird Al concert. But at the very next day, I went to go see it, and I just came out not really feeling too much about it.
Okay. What exactly about it did kind of rub you the wrong way?
The wrong way. It just felt like all it was just a general checklist. What they do for the checklist is actually good. Like the stuff with the blaster when they give them the blaster, I felt that was a nice little scene at the campfire. I felt the meeting Chewie was pretty good. Lando meeting everyone, that was good. But it just felt like another sort of like, hey, we know people will go see this movie because of this character, because of this IP. So let's just try to make up for lost, dollars and whatnot.
No, I get that. I do understand that. I understand like the checklist angle. They kind of had to establish that. Like this was one that like I called months ago as being the springboard for something like a trilogy. Because they obviously wanted to tell the story, and I was like, they're not going to bring in Donald Glover, who's extremely talented and everything else for just one movie. They're going to sign everyone to multiple films. Now, granted, they signed everyone on Rogue One to multiple films, probably because the ending wasn't set in stone by the time they started shooting the film. But they obviously established there's going to be more to the story and more with Solo and more for his adventures. And obviously that's going to, I think, be a big draw for a lot of fans because I think this one, even though they kind of went through the checklist of like, oh yeah, the blaster, the Millennium Falcon, he hasn't gotten his vest yet. So there's still
True.
There's still a lot more with that one. I Heart Sushi here says the winning of the Falcon felt rushed. Well, the winning at the end, I thought was pretty good because they tracked Lando down and they were just like, yeah, we're gonna come and have words, and then just seeing that he was cheating and stealing it from him, I thought was pretty good. I thought that was pretty fantastic.
Good, although I still don't know how they play Sabacc. I still don't know how they play that thing with all the cards and shit. I actually thought the dice were going to be like used for the game because people thought it was like the dice that he won the Millennium Falcon with, but apparently it was just some sort of ornament for the cockpit. That wasn't very integrated. It wasn't integrated very well.
Yeah. Those were his lucky dice from when he was Oliver Twist. That was the whole thing. That was his lucky dice, and it meant a lot with Kira, and everything else. One of the things I really found to be fascinating, was like how much The Last Jedi focused on it. Because when I was watching The Last Jedi and I saw the dice, I'm all like, that's gonna tie into Solo, like that's gonna tie in, and then I'm watching the movie and it kept being a thing. But I felt it was more like I was okay with it not being what he used to win the Millennium Falcon. I liked that it was more of a token of his first love, right? Because Kira was his first love, in life. The Millennium Falcon then became his love, and I think that's kind of what it was meant to represent, was like everything to get to that point, and then also the ship itself. So what I need to do is go back and watch The Force Awakens and see if the dice are in The Force Awakens.
I don't remember the dice being in Force Awakens.
Yeah. I don't know if they were there. Solo's dice. Hold on. Force Awakens. Looking to see if they were there. Maybe they weren't. Because if they weren't, that's gonna be pretty lame. I see them. I'm sure that they are, but I'm not seeing any pictures on on Google that would show it. So maybe someone in the chat can find it because I don't quite know. I don't have the time to look for it right now. But I mean, I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed it. I liked what they did. I thought that. Did you think that it was too dark though? I felt that it was too dark.
I don't think it was too dark. I felt it was just too long. I like the fact that at parts it's supposed to be dark, considering the fact that he was a military soldier. It gets pretty dark at times. But my problem is that there are scenes that are just done because they need to pick up the pace. So that whole Kessel like slavery breakout thing was just done for the interest of pacing and audience attention, I felt. There are certain sequences I felt were way too long in terms of pacing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I could feel the time just really running on the film.
Well, what's the runtime? It was around 2.5 hours, wasn't it?
Half hours, but like it felt like three. It felt like a really long movie.
It was no, it wasn't. Well, it wasn't 3 hours. It was let's see, Solo runtime.
It felt like 3 hours.
2 hours and 15 minutes is the runtime on the film. It's actually 2 minutes longer than Rogue One. and 17 minutes shorter than The Last Jedi. So, you know, I would say, yeah, if you could probably chalk it, you could have probably clocked in at 2 hours exactly. You probably could have cut out a bit of those things. And I think it would have
some more like energy, because that's what I felt was missing, is some energy. It needed some. It didn't feel fun. That's the thing that I had problems with. It just didn't feel. You think of Lando and Chewie, you think of these really fun and adventurous sort of things, but it just felt like just a heist film, and it didn't try to have fun with it. It just tried to play it off as a little bit more, oh, we got to do this because we got to get to this one thing to get to this other thing. Have that energy. It needed some sort of like hyper fuel that just jets it, you know?
Yeah, no, there was parts of it I do kind of chalk that up to like how the film was shot, you know, like the rushing to get it done. I think that was probably one of the biggest problems here, was the fact that it was you know, Ron Howard came in, rushed through the setups, you know, and made it flow a lot smoother. But thank you very much for subscribing, Shakeval. But I feel like there was probably you know, they could have done some more with it in terms of tightening it up. And again, that's, if they do a sequel, I think we're going to get all of that in the sequel, because this was such a troubled production. And I think had Phil Lord and Chris Miller been able to complete it the way they wanted it to, we probably would have had that high energy. We would have had a lot more of that. And I really wonder exactly, like, you know, I really wonder what it would be like if we would have had that. I wonder what it would have been like if we would have seen the Phil Lord and Chris Miller cut.
Under that too. I mean, like the fact that they introduced Darth Maul at the end, it got me a little bit interested. For what I know of Darth Maul, you know, I've seen the Clone Wars TV show. I know how his character ends in Rebels. So I'm just thinking to myself, how did he create Crimson Dawn? How did he create this large syndicate that operates underneath the Empire? Would be an interesting sort of thing to explore in like the sequel, and Kira's place within it.
Yeah, that was a little bit like, I want to see more of that, but at the same time, so okay, so think of it like this: the criminal syndicates are operating underneath the Empire, meaning they're operating generally without being, you know, oftentimes probably on the outer rim, where the Empire doesn't really have a lot of control. As we learned from the battle scene that Han was in, they were there basically, you know, colonizing a planet, so to speak, right? They were the invading force there, so they're still in the process of invading, which means there's a lot of chaos and a lot of turmoil. And if anything, because Darth Maul was Palpatine's apprentice, he would know how Palpatine would think. He would know what Darth Vader might be doing, and he might be then knowing how to work himself around it. As we saw in Rebels, he was very crafty and how he approached things. It's not something we got to see much of with the movie, obviously, but I think that was a big part of it. I think he worked underneath the, he knew how to kind of maybe work his way around. And it wasn't just Crimson Dawn. I think there was other crime syndicates that answered to him as well. So I think he taught them how to get around the empire to get rich and then work for him for what he wants. Now, what his end goal is, we kind of know through Rebels. Like, what he's trying to do is to reclaim the power of the Sith in order to take over. And it was very fascinating to see that play out in the show, the way he was trying to. Like, I haven't finished the show yet, so I don't know all of it yet. But I remember, season 3 at least. And so I think that's going to be a big part of it. I think that's going to be a big thing for where they want to take it.
Definitely. But what I'm really worried about with this film is something that I think with this film, I actually kind of get what the main problem is with Lucasfilm. And it's not the fact that they're tarnishing characters like in The Last Jedi. It's the fact that they're really wanting to play it safe and just stay within a certain sect of time in a certain place in the Star Wars universe. Like, they have this whole playground full of stuff, but yet they keep going to the swing set. The most popular ride on a park. Kind of afraid to go outside of that. And so, that's why you get people who are pissed off with The Last Jedi, seeing how there is some changes that piss people off in that movie. Like, they're trying to do something new within the confines of what we already know. Why is that it pisses people off?
Well, the thing with The Last Jedi, and this is what I feel, again, this kind of, I keep going back to Ghostbusters on this one, because I feel that ultimately Ghostbusters is a prime example for this. You have nostalgia from the 80s coming back, and things are different. And ultimately, that's never a bad thing, because times always change, things evolve. But when you do something that kind of feels wholly out of place for the heart and soul of what the product is, of what the nostalgia is, and then when you see that there's a backlash, the response basically is the middle finger, it's going to not work well with certain fans. It's not going to work out well with people, because they're not going to want to be spoken down to like that. And that's a lot of what happened in Last Jedi. And this is always when I bring back to the idea of talking about the what are they called? Like the movie bloggers. The movie bloggers are so much of there's so much of a cause for a lot of the problems, because a lot of the reasons it's that people are mad at the studio, right? And so then the bloggers see people are mad at the studio, or Kathleen Kennedy or Rian Johnson or whatever, right? And then they pick one argument. Oh, Rey was a Mary Sue, or Holdo was Admiral SJW or something, right? And it's just like, a really kind of a nitpicky thing. Nothing that's even to do necessarily with the core narrative storytelling that people have an issue with. And they focus on that, and they go, oh, but look at these sexist, misogynistic people. Look at these people who are the problem. These people who are the other. And they're telling you that this is bad. They're wrong in their opinion, and they're just being sexist as a result. And I think that's a fair amount of it. I think that's a lot of what we see. And people then get mad at the studio by thinking that these people represent the studio, which is not the case. And in Ghostbusters, when they sat there and they were like, the studio then echoed what the bloggers were saying, just totally destroyed it, just totally screwed everything up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually was watching the Grace Randolph video about the box office for Solo: A Star Wars Story, and how she actually posited that Kathleen Kennedy actually doesn't like Star Wars.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday, which I thought was an interesting take on it, and I thought that was I think that it's in part true, because she came in, she's worked with Spielberg, she's worked with Lucas her entire career, right? She, I think, was an associate producer on E.T., and then she also was an associate producer on Temple of Doom. And she, worked with Frank Marshall, or she's married to Frank Marshall, I think, who co-owned DreamWorks or whatever. So she's worked in this bubble her entire life, and it's her entire career. And it's possible that her entire bubble is just something she now just resents, right? She now just resents that entire bubble because she's never done anything else. So now she's in this position where she was handpicked by her predecessor, and also Spielberg, who had a very big part in that as well, to take over the studio and to lead it to the next generation. And she's kind of been stumbling quite a bit. And, I'm wondering if this is going to be the first step of her downfall.
I mean, I don't think she'll be like kicked out of the door because of the box office for this film.
No, but it's gonna wound her credibility going forward and stuff.
Oh, it's going to. She'll definitely have a talk with the Disney higher ups, and they'll be like, "Hey, we're gonna put some sort of, captain or lieutenant in here just to make sure that there's quality control and whatnot."
Yeah, and people want that to be Dave Filoni, but I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be Dave Filoni, because that's what people are saying right now. They want Filoni. They want that's what that they want him to come in because of what he did on Rebels. So, and he did a good job. He did a really good job, and I think that he'd be good for it. But now he's got that other show they're working on, the animated show.
And like I think the biggest problem also is that with Kathleen Kennedy, I actually noticed this in the director of the Jedi documentary where she's talking about how they picked their directors. And she says, when George Lucas made the original Star Wars, he thought to himself, what makes Star Wars so special to me? And so her mentality going forward with like choosing directors is what makes Star Wars special to you, and just elaborate on it. A proper mentality. Because like, with J.J. Abrams, like his mentality of Star Wars was like, oh, well, let's do nostalgia. And Rian Johnson was more the like, look at the historic symbolism that Star Wars represented, like the samurais and the knights and whatnot. Really heavily like the visuals and cinematography and staging of certain locations. But like, I think that's the wrong mentality choosing directors and writers. It should be more about, hey, let's try to figure out what the core of this next trilogy is going to be.
Yeah, well, I think
with the inside out.
Yeah, and I think what the big problem here ultimately, and then I got to move on. There's other people that I do want to jump in here, but basically, what I feel is she's been choosing this from the wrong type of perspective. People want to wrap up the saga, the Skywalker saga, and then from there experiment. You know what I mean? From there, go forward and try new things. But don't fuck with something that's established, because people are not going to respond well. And that's what she did.
And I think what they need to do going forward, if they ever do like the Solo trilogy and they finish that off, get away from the Empire Rebellion stuff. Because I think at this point there are lots of people that have complained, like, this is the same stuff we've seen over and over and over. We need to have a new story that focuses on something that's not of the Empire, that is not of the Resistance or Rebellion. Just focus on like a different aspect of the Star Wars universe. I know that they could do it. They've done it before in like Star Wars: The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. They could do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just like the ones, like the origins of the Force. Like, I would love to see kind of like the origins of how the Jedi and Sith were made.
So what you're saying is the Old Republic? You want the Old Republic? The answer to that is yes, you want the Old Republic.
Done in a movie form, but don't fuck it up.
Well, they're gonna probably find a way to fuck it up, but all right, man. Well, yeah, I'm gonna move on to next person. But thank you so much for hanging out, dude. We good conversation, and there's a lot there to process with this movie, a lot there to think about. And I know you do. You run a channel as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's Spearman Studios. I did a full 22-minute review of the film. But yeah, it's just.
So it's youtube.com/Spiritman Studios.
Yeah, it should be /Spearman Studios. If not, just like search Spearman Studios on the YouTube and you'll find it. It's relatively small, so.
All right. Well, check it out, everyone. Check out his review, and you can get and subscribe to his channel. Help the smaller people get bigger. People who are enthusiastic, and that's what we need more of on this platform. So thanks a lot, dude, and we'll definitely talk again soon. All right. I don't know if he's there or not. Okay. NDO, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, man, thanks for waiting. So what's your thoughts on the Star Wars?
It's lukewarm. I actually went in there with just one expectation that kind of was tossed out the window, and mostly through the movie that kind of disappointed. Are you familiar with the Tag and Binks thing that they were saying that they were going to implement?
I'm sorry, the what?
Tag and Binks.
No, I don't know what that is. I may not have heard you correctly, but explain to me what that is.
Tag and Binks are two characters. It's a parody of Shakespeare's something are dead. I forget their character.
Oh, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yeah,
or Gilderstein.
They're the Star Wars. Yeah, it's the Star Wars equivalent, with these two characters that caused everything to go wrong in the Star Wars series. And the director, Ron Howard, was actually going to make a cameo with those characters in it, make them canon. Which I was hoping for, because it had potential to be hilarious, but they ended up cutting it from the film last minute. And when I realized that, I was like, ah.
Oh, right. Okay, I forget who the actors were.
One of them was Ron Howard himself, and then there's
okay, because I do remember seeing a picture of that, and then not seeing
them at all in the film.
Yeah, okay. Because that's the thing. I think when we get the Blu-ray and DVD of this movie, it's gonna have a lot of behind the scenes features on it. I think it's gonna have a lot of stuff.
I have a feeling they're gonna be in a deleted scene, which would be sort of befitting because they are technically out of the frame and all the books and stuff, which would be still kind of cute. The other thing I hated was the ending.
Really?
It just felt like they were. Part of me felt like they were closing it off too early. Like, I wish they would have made it directly connect to one of the earlier movies. Like, I know how they did a nod with Darth Maul, which I thought was really good, but it felt like it felt like they were leaving themselves wiggle room to make a sequel of a prequel, which I'm not 100% sure would be good because of the box office numbers and stuff. What did you think of the ending? Like, did you feel that way? Like they could have?
No, I felt they were establishing. Like, I always knew going into this movie that it was going to be the setup for a trilogy. So I looked at it as it's establishing the world, establishing the characters, establishing the setting, what to and possibly what to expect from the next film. Very similar to like Batman Begins. You get to the end of the movie and you're like, okay, this is going to lead into more films. And then they go, oh, by the way, here's the Joker card. So you know what's coming. The Joker card in this case was Darth Maul. You know what's coming. You know he's going to Tatooine. You know Boba Fett's getting his own movie. So you know those two are going to cross over to one another. And like, that's cool. And so the question is, though, is how are they going to be able to wrap it up into a narrative that's going to be interesting to fans? I think deep down, a lot of people that are mad at Solo are people who want it to be better than it is, and they don't like the direction of the company. And as I said, we got some people in here before, and people now, that I said, if you want there to be the change, Kathleen Kennedy out, you got to go to Bob Iger and Alan Horn, create a letter writing campaign to them specifically as a way to try to get rid of Kathleen Kennedy. And, I think that's going to be the best course of action. It has to be done in a polite way. Nothing like, get rid of her. Yeah. She's a bitch. Like, they're not going to listen to that stuff. But if you write as a Star Wars fan, like, look, I don't like the direction of this. I don't think she cares. Then that's going to be something that's going to, really kind of have it. And the thing is too, you have to watch out, because if it, like, let's say for example, there's a change.org petition, because everyone would just go to a change.org petition. A change.org petition saying like fire Kathleen Kennedy would be viewed as being sexist and misogynistic. It would be attacked by the movie bloggers, because they are going to view it as such, because they view any criticism of a female automatically sexist and misogynistic. And so that's going to be a thing. And then they're going to sit there and denounce it. Whereas if you do a letter writing campaign, that actually shows effort. That actually shows a big thing. And so it's kind of like that might be something worth looking into, in terms of fans, instead of just like, let's fuck with the Rotten Tomatoes score, which ultimately is pointless. Let's actually do something productive and write a letter to the people who are actually in control and saying, this is not the way things should be. Things should be better. This person is clearly not in the position to care about this. So please do something. Bring in someone who actually gives a shit. Clone Kevin Feige. I know you have the technology. All right. Clone Feige, put him in there and just do that. And just do that shit. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, the reason why, from my perspective, I wasn't expecting a trilogy. I was expecting something similar to like a la Rogue One, like a self-contained story. That's what I thought they were doing with these adventures when they delved back into the past.
They talked about that a bit, yeah.
Yeah, that they could reference them or like allude to them, like that's what I thought they were going to do with when I learned about the Boba Fett movie. Like, they were going to allude events that happened in Solo. That's what I was expecting, but they were all going to end more or less where you can jump from do another movie. Like Rogue One, then you could jump to episode 4. Solo,
yeah, well, I think, and I have a feeling that the end of Solo, I guarantee you, I'm calling it right fucking now. The end of Solo 3, the third Solo movie, is going to end with him and Chewie walking in to the cantina in the Mos Eisley spaceport.
I have a feeling they're gonna like do that, or they're gonna be like, Chewie, I want a drink.
Yeah, or you're gonna hear like, you know, they're gonna be sitting there at the Mos Eisley spaceport, and then Ewan McGregor's gonna show up as, you know, old Obi-Wan, and be like, so I need to hire a pilot, right? Something along those lines. You know, that's where it's gonna end. It's gonna end with that, and then it's gonna be like da 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 da, and that's gonna smash cut to the end. That's how the movie's.
I think it's gonna end not with Solo 3. I think it's gonna end with like the Kenobi film.
It will.
I think that with him asking for or looking for a pilot. Do you see any Kenobi like that?
It depends. It depends if because I have a feeling they're going to make a Kenobi trilogy. I think they're going to do a Kenobi trilogy, and because here's the thing, because trilogies are where it's at. We all know this where things are at these days.
Yeah.
Rogue One was a good lead in to A New Hope. We don't need to see like Bothans the movie. You know what I mean? Like we don't need a Bothans movie.
Yeah, we don't need the what are those little things on Endor? Crap.
No, you leave the fucking Ewoks alone, sir. you leave the fucking Ewoks alone, okay?
I'm sorry. Yes, they need to get a quadrilogy. My apologies.
No, we don't. We've already had an Ewok movie. Okay, we've already had the Battle for Endor, or whatever that fucking Ewok movie was that like no one liked and shit. But it exists. I don't quite know if it's canon anymore, but it exists nonetheless. But that being said, there's definitely a lot to be said for this particular franchise, and I do think there's going to be a lot of I do think there's a lot of legs left with it, but they have to recalibrate. They have to recalibrate where they're at. They have to reestablish, you know. And right now, I mean, they're in the perfect position right now to do that, because they haven't gone into production on episode 9 yet. That doesn't start until next month, right? So if they need to delay production or whatever, they need to push back the release date, they can do that. I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to stick hard with December. And
what I found interesting about the release dates is I was surprised Solo was released this month.
The thing is,
I think I was led to believe it was like going to be every December. It's just like every other December would be to the main storyline, like Star Wars 7, 8, etc. Why and then in between those, it would be stuff like Solo and Rogue One.
Well, yeah. So here's why they released it. Originally, the release date for Episode 8 was Memorial Day weekend, 2017. They wanted May 25th, 2017 to mark the 40th anniversary of the release of Star Wars, and they pushed it back. I forget why they pushed it back, but I think because like the reshoot,
Howard and all that.
Well, no. With Episode 8, I don't remember why they pushed it, but they. No, I think they pushed it because of Rogue One or some shit. I don't know, but they pushed it from December or from May all the way to December, and it worked out well. It gave people the time. Like, I don't know if we need 2 or 3 Star Wars movies a year. That is, unless they establish a narrative. If they established what they're working towards, if we know it's part of an interconnected universe where these are side stories that are all tied into a larger tale, which is what they should be doing, then that would work out well for the narrative and doing multiple films a year. The fact that the films aren't connected and doing multiple of them is not going to help. It's just not going to help.
I had a feeling discussing this with you. I just had an idea. What if, like, for the Solo trilogy, they don't do a trilogy per se? Like, they have the Boba Fett movie technically be the second part in Solo. Like, they just go from there. And
see, that would be fascinating. That would
like, and there'll be like a ton of linkage in between that you can tell that they're linking to.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that would be very interesting to see what happens with that.
So they're not like flat out saying it's a Solo part 2. Like, they're just saying that they're just connected in ways that you can tell.
Yeah, I would like to see them. I'd like to see the characters come back. I like the characters. If they tie into a Boba Fett and they're a big part of that, kind of like Iron Man jumping around from, you know, Avengers to Civil War, then Homecoming and whatnot, kind of popping up as a side character that's got a larger screen time. That's fine with me. And that could be what happened here. They could realize that they just releasing the movies in May, not very good. It's either they have to release them like, here's the thing though. Here's the thing. Once they right the ship, once they do all this shit, you know, then I think they'll be able to release good movies. Like, you know, if they hit a high bar of quality, like let's say Marvel levels of quality, and they're putting out 2 or 3 a year, the quality level remains high. People are going to go see them, right? The habit's there, which is why one of the reasons why Marvel does as well as it does is because the habit is there to see these films, and the qualities remain the same. Looking at the quality of The Last Jedi was I would say better filmed, better, better.
Oh yeah, cinematography was great.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Rian Johnson is Rian Johnson as a director is a very, very, very solid director. As a storyteller, he sucks, right? Ron Howard is a good director and storyteller, but this is one that he came in on a fucking rush job to get it over the line, to get it to the place it needed to be. So
I think that really what suffered for Solo. Like I just felt weird watching it. Like as you mentioned about the energy, like it didn't end with me saying woohoo. It was like, it was okay. It was lukewarm. Like it didn't have that full energy. Like kept stumbling into different directors. You can tell in some areas and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it was like weird.
It all requires people, like, there's always going to be growing pains. And I think people expect the Star Wars to hit the ground running, and it just wasn't able to in the way that they wanted it. And now we're moving past it, and they're creating a whole new canon, right? Because I'm seeing Robot Shlomo, who I'm buds with in the chat, saying like, Disney killed the EU, the books don't count anymore, which is not entirely true. I mean, and ultimately they don't count, but they're still pulling in things from that. Like there was Terakasi was mentioned in the movie, right? Terakasi was mentioned. Terakasi is a 1997 video game for the PlayStation. Star Wars: The Battle, I think it's Masters of Terakasi or something. So like they mentioned a 20-year-old video game in this, right? Like I'm just waiting for someone to drop the name Kyle Katarn. Just give me that. You know what I mean? Just give me Kyle Katarn movie. Give me a Shadow of the Empire movie. Like that old N64 Star Wars game that was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Give me a TIE Fighter versus X-Wing movie. If done right, TIE Fighter versus X-Wing could be an event film. It could be $1 billion event film if told, because it moves away. I mean, yes, there's the Empire and there's a rebellion, but then it's not Force. There's no Force users in the Empire. It's just it's Force versus Force, right? It's army versus army, and that could work out. Like there's a lot of cool things they could do with this kind of thing if they want to reference it. But not only that, but they mentioned Bosk, right? The other bounty hunter from Empire, like he was mentioned. So there's little things that were kind of peppered in throughout that I thought make it really cool. Like I think Solo's going to get better upon repeat viewings. Andrew here does ask if I think we're ever going to see the Sith again. Well, we are. I mean, Maul came back. Maul's alive. He's alive right now. So he's Sith and he's pissed.
He's technically gets, he's alive for now, and then it goes into episode 1.
Yeah. Well, I know episode 1 happened beforehand. This takes place well after episode 1. Did you not notice? Did you not notice his robotic legs?
Yeah, that's right. I did not notice. I saw it at midnight. So
oh man, I saw Snow because as soon as I saw the hologram. Well, as soon as they put up the hologram and she starts talking, and then I'm listening to the voice and I'm just like, wait a minute, that voice sounds familiar. And then I'm like, oh no, guys, it's Sam Witwer. And then it kind of cuts out and you see like the hood, and then it pulls back and you see the fucking robot legs.
I am so hoping.
I lost my shit.
I'm so hoping in the Kenobi movie they do what they did in the Clone Wars series. That would be amazing to see it in live action. So and the scene I'm referencing, because I really don't want to spoil it, is Kenobi versus Maul.
Oh, I heard that was good. I actually plan on catching up on that one.
I would watch it, and I would say this. He tricks Maul, but I'm not going to spoil how. I'm just going to say he does some similar moves to his old master, and then you can just make sure you watch how Kenobi acts as you watch those clips.
Yeah, no, I need to check that out, definitely. But Shlomo here says, but now they're going to cherry pick from elements to provide fan service. Well, ultimately, there's nothing really wrong with providing fan service. I mean, look at the Marvel movies. The Marvel movies will have references to things deep in Marvel lore. So there's nothing wrong with having fan service. There's nothing wrong with that nudge and that wink to the camera to let people know that this is still part of a larger universe or part of a larger thing. There's nothing inherently bad with that. It's when it's okay. See, again, I have to keep going back to Ghostbusters because this is like the prime example of how not to do something, right? And it's that when like Ghostbusters stops dead in its tracks to take the, to pull nostalgia out of its ass and shove it down your throat. That's been my metaphor since the beginning, and it works because that's exactly what the movie does. And it's the prime example of how not to do something. Whereas if they were just like referencing shit, like the little nuggets of info tossed around in the background of Solo are really cool. Like I've been reading a lot of those and having a lot of fun with like the little Easter eggs. Same with Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2 had a shitload of Easter eggs in the background. And it's just, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's at that point, it's for the true fan. And what they want is they want people to become true fans and really imbibe on this kind of content. And unfortunately, the Star Wars story group has focused more on the books, which is why I'm actually launching another channel that's going to be going through the new canon, the new EU.
Is it going to be called Mundane Reads?
No, it's actually not. I have a title for it. I have a title for it. And
I'm intrigued.
I'm getting artwork made right now for it. And
awesome.
So I've kind of created a bit of a mock logo that I've shown to some people and they seem to like it. And I'll be doing chapter by chapter breakdowns, reviews and everything of the books. And those will come out soon. Those will start coming out here pretty soon on more of a daily basis because I am
excited
because I did a little bit of that with the Last Jedi novelization. I'm going to continue off where I left with that. And people actually liked it. And then I just got lazy and kind of forgot about it. So Andrew here says, is it sad that I'm seeing Solo today just for the Darth Maul cameo? If you look, here's the thing. If you go into just for the Darth Maul cameo, that's fine. That's fine. I think you'll have fun with the other bits. Look for this. Look for the Imperial March and look how it's used. I loved how that was used. I thought that it was fantastic how they put that in there.
It was fantastic at a lot of areas, but some places it felt forced for me.
Well, they only had the Imperial March in one scene. So, and it was just at the scene. I don't want to, if people haven't seen it, I don't want
to spoil. I don't want to spoil either. I'll just say the beginning part was amazing, but it began to get, at some points out of listening to it in the background, it felt a bit like overused almost.
Wait, did you watch a pirated copy of Solo?
No.
Okay.
No, I went to the theaters. It was midnight and I was like half asleep. And
okay.
The Darth Maul thing did keep me awake. Like it woke me back. I'm like, oh, that's Darth Maul, but I didn't notice the robotic legs, unfortunately. Again, I was tired. And I will say one of my favorite moments was the Kessel Run. I was actually genuinely surprised. I was like, oh, they're actually doing the Kessel Run now.
Yeah, I like that they did that. Again, the movie's catching. In my this is my opinion. People can agree or disagree with me. A lot of people in the chat.
Your mic cut out.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think my Yeti's messing up now. But anyway, my opinion is that the movie was a fair amount of fun. It was serviceable. It wasn't perfect. I do think overall Rogue One was a better made movie, but that didn't have the production problems that Solo had. Solo was kind of marked going out of the gate. There was already kind of hesitation with it. Then the drama happened a year ago. There's more hesitation with it. And then The Last Jedi came out. And then there was like now this kind of like spotlight put on Solo as like, now you're going to pay for The Last Jedi's mistakes. And it's like, this is a different fucking product. It's a different fucking movie. Yep. So there's that. Someone asked me, you're like, what do you think is better, the DCEU or Disney Star Wars? Disney Star Wars, man. I like the DCEU. Man of Steel is one of my top films from 2013. I thought it was fan-fucking-tastic. But they're in their own little, we don't know what the hell we're doing situation. So Darth Maul will be the villain for Kenobi. That would be interesting.
I have a feeling that he will be the villain. It's going to end with Kenobi going up against Darth Maul.
And then having that right there tie into Rebels then, right? Having it then tie into Rebels?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that happened I don't think they'll tie into Rebels. I think shortly after the battle they'll make a nod to the fourth movie saying like where he tries to communicate and find a smuggler. Like I think they hint at that and then how
it's possible. It's possible. I mean, I think that they're already gonna I don't think they're going to announce a sequel on Tuesday. Right? I don't think they're going to announce a sequel. They might though. They might announce a sequel for the movie on Tuesday and not have a release date, but just announce the sequel's in development as a way to like maybe reassure the fan base that they like that it's, you know, we're still working on things past the thing. And they could also sit there and cancel the Boba Fett movie, right? They could also, you know what? Here's the thing. I'm calling it now. The Rian Johnson trilogy, I think, is going to take a hit because of this. I think the Rian Johnson trilogy is going to take a huge hit because of Solo.
I thought it would have taken a big enough hit from the feedback of The Last Jedi. I thought that would have took just enough as damage.
No. They backed him. Kathleen Kennedy backed him. That's the whole thing. Reason why they announced he's getting his own trilogy. Oh yeah, she backed him hard, man. She backed him like crazy. So there's that. Let's see. Ranger here asks, did I ever watch Clone Wars, a TV show? I had so much trouble getting into that show. Like I've done maybe like 6 or 7 episodes of season 1. I know it gets better. Everyone tells me skip to season 3, just go from there. But it's like I gotta sit down and watch it.
That's actually what I did. When I like skipped to season 3, trust me, and I said I normally don't do this, but fine, because I was like getting very sick of like after the 3rd episode, like it wasn't grabbing me. Then season 3, at about 3 to 4 episodes in, I was hooked.
So, but I have a feeling. I just have a feeling that Rian Johnson's trilogy is going to get hit because of this. There's always consequences to these kind of situations. I don't want to call it.
The box office isn't looking good as well either.
No, the box office isn't looking very good, and the reviews on the movie being kind of lukewarm were also not very good, and that's going to have an impact on it. Like I looked at some of the opening when I was buying tickets to go see the movie. I looked at Burbank 16 in LA, right? Because that's where I used to go. That's where I saw Avengers back in 2012. That's where I saw a lot of movies back when I lived in LA. And, you know, I'm like, okay, this has got to be sold out. These are huge Star Wars nerds. And this is Burbank, you know, Walt Disney Studios is right there. You know, Warner's is right there. Sony. And yeah, no, there was a lot of open space in these early screenings. There was a lot of open space and shit, which made me a little bit worried, but I thought it was going to pick up. But ultimately too, people, you know, like with Avengers just having just come out and that movie making as much money as it did, you know, there's only so much money that goes into the summer box office season or summer blockbuster season. And Deadpool last week, I think Deadpool pulling in 42 million also hurt it.
Really, I thought I was hearing good things about Deadpool's box office. That's news.
No. It did. It did 150 million last week, right?
Okay.
It did 150 million last weekend, which is going to hurt the next weekend's movies, right? That's the truth. That's the truth. People went and saw it, $150 million. And I want to go see it again. I fucking loved, I've watched a copy online, and everything else, but I really enjoyed Deadpool. And this one again was going to hit because there was $42 million that Deadpool made this weekend. So that 42 million could have gone into Solo. And I think a fair amount of it would have gone into Solo. So people are waiting until next weekend to go see Solo because nothing comes out. So I think we're going to see a fair amount of you know, reports of a solid Monday, of solid weekday earnings for Solo. But it's not going to be as good as it could have been. Obviously, the stumble out of the gate is going to hurt its long run. But the movie will come out on home video and people are going to buy it. And honestly, merchandising is a big thing. But I haven't seen a lot of merchandise for Solo at all.
Yeah, I think they're saving a lot of the merchandising arm for the episode 9 or
yeah, they're gonna wait on that. Well, the toys. Well, no, there were toys for Solo that they announced last month, and I don't know if those sold well.
Now, here's my question to you: do you think that Ian McDiarmid will make a cameo in future prequel stuff like this, like talking to Darth Maul and stuff?
Well, no, because if there is.
I think Darth Maul, if I remember correctly, tried to communicate with him after the fateful Episode 1 incident.
I don't know. I have no idea. But what I would think would happen would be if they do communicate, it would be very similar to Ronan the Destroyer and Thanos from Guardians of the Galaxy #1, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like that reaching out, like I'm coming for you, sort of thing, and then like, you know, like letting him know he's still around. I think that would be the only communication that would happen. So I do think, here's a Ranger says, I don't know if word of mouth is going to help Solo. I think it is, because I've seen more people on Twitter saying I went and saw the movie and I liked it, that went in there thinking it was going to suck. That's the general consensus that I've seen, is that they were like, no, it's actually not as bad. And I think that even if it's medium solid word of mouth, is going to end up doing pretty well. So okay, so let's I'm gonna wrap this up here pretty quickly. So I'm gonna end this part of the call. So thank you very much for coming in. And, I appreciate it.
It's always nice talking to you. Hopefully you do a discussion of Deadpool 2. Even
Yeah, I need to do a Deadpool 2 discussion. And that's something to do with fucking review.
I got a lot to say about that one.
So we'll have to go through Deadpool 2, obviously, because I want to do more of these posted streams. They're a lot of fun. I like gushing about the movie or talking shit about the movie or whatever, and we'll be good with that. But yeah, thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you.
I'll talk to you later, man. Thank you a lot. All right, so yeah, and then there was no one else in the green room that really wanted to come in. So that's unfortunate. But as you know, you guys can always come in and chat on these streams. Discord.me/MundaneMatt. You can a good way to get into the conversation. So all right, let's take some questions here. What did I think of the SJW robot? I didn't have a problem with L337. Not as much as I thought I was going to. I thought there was going to be a bad thing. I thought there was going to be this annoyance factor with it. And I actually ended up kind of finding the character relatively endearing because the quips were consistent, and it was, and it led to her own demise, showing that, over activism can get you fucking killed. And I think that's what happened here. Let's see here. Ghost Wolf says Solo was fun seeing it. Absolutely. Garrick here says, I think some people are going into Solo already hating it. Oh yeah, no, that was a big thing. That was a big thing. When you have an alt-right group that's coming out and saying like, our job is to like tank this movie, then you have to really wonder how much of what you've seen has also been that. And there's been a lot of people on YouTube that have found it very profitable to shit on Star Wars. There's a lot of people out there that have been doing that. And it's like, I can't, I have to take a movie, go into it like, with the intent to enjoy. And a lot of, I went into Ghostbusters with the intent to enjoy after crapping all over that movie for months and hoping I was wrong. So there's that. Let's see. Hollywood critics gave 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, while fans 56%. They hated it. The thing is, The Rapper, you can't sit there and trust those scores one way or the other. We know that Rotten Tomatoes is not. You can't sit there and say that Rotten Tomatoes getting certified fresh is a valid place for Ghostbusters, and then say, well, they rated Solo 71%. It doesn't work when it's not trustworthy when you want it to be trustworthy, and not trustworthy when you don't want it to be not trustworthy. So you have to take everything with 100% grain of salt. It's a metric, it's an aggregate, but it's still, I think, heavily swayed one way or the other. Fans, on the other hand, not everyone uses it. The cinema, do we know the cinema score yet for Solo? Let's see the cinema score, because if the cinema score is a way more trustworthy thing. Let's see, cinema score. Okay, cinema score. All right, so apparently the cinema score for Solo is an A-. So that is more of a solid metric than anything Rotten Tomatoes produces. Rotten Tomatoes loves this controversy because people keep going back to look at it, right? They keep going back to see it. They keep going back to that shit. But it got an A- cinema score, so I think it's absolutely fine. Let's see. Will we ever get a Sith-based movie in our lifetime? I hope so. I do hope so. I think it'd be pretty great. So let's see here. As far as the shitting on Star Wars, how much of that is because the hating Disney machine? I think a bit of it is that as well, but I think a lot of it is Rian Johnson. A lot of it is that. So, this movie is, I keep it right here because it's always a prop. That's what my copy of fucking Solo is turned into, right? It's turned into a fucking prop all the goddamn time. That's what it is. So yeah, this is just now a prop. This is just what I use it for. And I don't know what the fuck that was. Okay. All right. So, Shlomo, if you want to jump on, if you want to come in for a few minutes and jump on Skype, I can patch you in. I use Discord because it's easy to get people to come on in, but we're friends on Skype. So, let's see. Do I see Boba Fett movie beginning with Boba blasting himself out of the Sarlacc pit? I don't think it's going to be with him going into the Sarlacc pit. I think it's going to be young Boba Fett. It only makes sense to have a young Boba Fett. What do I think of the Solo film for Mother Talzin, Palpatine, Dooku, Ventress, and Grievous? No, I don't think that would work. I think if they played to a larger narrative, like a larger political narrative, that would work. That's kind of what Lucas was doing in the prequel trilogy. He was setting this stage, setting the scene, and everything else. But I think the second weekend of box office will decide Solo's fate. Yes, Tia, that is absolutely correct. The second weekend of Solo's box office will decide its fate ultimately. Expect Disney to fucking shill out for marketing this week. I mean, like, marketing everywhere is what I think is going to happen. I think we'll get that. Will we get a will we get a pod racing movie in the same vein as Rush? Wasn't that Ron Howard? That was Ron Howard, right? Fuck it. Fuck Willow 2. Fuck that shit. Give us a pod racing movie with Sebulba. Bring back Sebulba. Have him be the underdog. This is the rise of Sebulba. And make it just the fucking hardcore, gritty pod racing film. Like Death Wish, but with pod racing. I would see that shit. Fucking camera. Hold on. There we go. It's been doing this. I think the lens is crapping out, but Grimmore here says, I personally think it's the lack of interest over saturation to be his biggest obstacle. Do I think they should slow down on the releases? I think one a year is fine for right now. When the Game of Thrones guys come in, this is when they're gonna up it probably more. No, let me get him in. Hey, what's up, man? Oh, let me just double check that I've got everything here. Window, okay, video, speakers, microphone, yeah. Can you hear me, Rob? Hold on. Can you? Let's see if I can, because I can't hear him. So I want to see if he comes in. But I think with the Game of Thrones guys, once they come in, it's going to be a lot more fun. Because they're going to seriously establish this big narrative. They're going to establish the big overall arc. We're going to get, I would say, if anything, like if they want to do Thrawn justice, give us Thrawn in that particular movie. Okay, so I'm waiting for Rob. He called in, but he's not responding. Hoping that he does. Shlomo, you bastard, come on, talk to me, baby. All right. Let's see. Would I prefer Star Wars if it was owned by Universal, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, Lego, ABC, HBO, Showtime, or Stars? Well, ABC is Disney. Warner Brothers and HBO are the same company. Stars, I think, is owned by Lionsgate. I think Disney's the right company for it because they're the ones that are going to put the money in. But ultimately, it's not working out very well. Okay, I can't hear him apparently. Let me adjust my settings here. Okay. Okay, try speaking. Nothing there. All right. Device. Hold on. Okay. Nope. I can hear.
Okay.
Okay, now we can hear. And now there's a loop.
A loop?
Okay, now we're good. Now we're good, sir.
Oh, we're good now?
Yeah, now I can fucking hear you.
Okay, the gods of Skype have been kind to us then.
This is why I use Discord, because it's a better service.
I have Discord too. I mean, I have Discord too. If I can jump on there if think it's easier.
No, we're fine right now. We can hear you.
Okay.
Let's not fuck with this.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say. Let's not fuck with this at all.
Okay,
So real quick, introduce yourself. This is Robot Shlomo.
Yeah, I'm Robot Shlomo. You guys, I got my own channel. You guys might know me as the narrator from Midnight's Edge. If any of you follow us there, I narrate a lot of the MIDI documentaries and that kind of good stuff. And actually, yeah, there's one in the pipeline. I think everybody's going to enjoy pretty soon.
I think Tom was messaging me about something yesterday. So he was asking some stuff yesterday about some stuff. I don't want to say what it is if you guys have it in the pipeline.
Yeah. Actually, I found some information actually and hopefully that'll solve that. Yeah. So full disclosure, actually, I've seen your review. I have not seen Solo yet. I'm gonna see if I can get to the theater tomorrow, at some point. Okay.
Well, fine. Let's look at this from the apprehension. Fine. Let's approach this particular conversation from the perspective of like being apprehensive towards seeing the film.
Someone who's on the fence. Yeah.
Because you guys come like. Because I was told, like, I think Tom hated it, right? I think Tom hated it.
Hated is not the appropriate word.
Because like, I heard that, because he commented on my review saying, like, did we even watch the same movie? I'm all like, Oh, God damn it, Tom, you hate everything.
Yeah.
So there's that. But,
yeah.
So from a fence-sitting perspective,
yeah.
What is it about the film that has you on the fence right now?
My big thing is it's probably the same thing, same problem I had with Rogue One. Rogue One was a decent enough movie, but what had happened was it got a few minutes in, and it just seemed like it was counting down to the next Easter egg. 3, 2, 1, ding, 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 ding. Ha! Yeah, that looks familiar. Oh, that's the pilot that was on the from the Y-wing that got blown up in the trench run. 3, 2, 1, ding, 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 ding. Oh, look, there's another guy. Oh, look, there's a reference to that. I can't help but think that by focusing on, I don't want to call them prequel movies, but they're movies set previously in the Star Wars timeline.
Yeah.
That you're taking a very large universe and you're making it smaller, so that you can't tell a story that explores new territory. Kind of like the same problem I have with Star Trek Discovery to a certain point.
Okay.
Is that you have a certain point and you have to end at a certain point. And yeah, there's things you can fill in, but at the same time, you're very confined. You have to play within that space too.
Well, they are confined, but I think they also like Star Trek Discovery was confined because it's going into the events of the first of the original series, and they're taking some liberties, which is definitely not working out well with some fans. But in the case of Rogue One, I get what you're saying. They are relying on nostalgia because this is tying in obviously to like A New Hope. And whereas Solo doesn't actually have to tie into anything specifically, it does. It actually does. But it's not done in a way that beats you over the head with it like the ending of Rogue One did. And I love the ending of Rogue One. I love that it tied in directly with the beginning of A New Hope and everything else. But at the same time, this does not do that. This does not. This isn't like Last Jedi where it's like you're running 3 narratives and you're trying to share equal space with them and they all kind of fall flat. It's not Infinity War where they're doing the exact same thing and it works. This is one where you've got a character on a journey. It's a straightforward journey. So there's no Canto Bite. There's no Casino Planet shit. There's none of that stuff that comes into play at all that ends up making it this big, it doesn't stop it dead in its tracks, in my opinion. One of the complaints actually is that it moves too fast, is that everything happens at relatively breakneck speed. You don't get a lot of time to really kind of digest what you've seen. Yeah. And I can definitely see that, which is why I think upon a second viewing, which I definitely want to do, it's going to be a lot more enjoyable. It's kind of like, look, this is going to be an odd analogy, but it's kind of like sex, right? You get the first one out of the way. It's a horrible, terrible experience with maybe a decent ending. But the next time around, you're like, oh, I know what I'm expecting now. Like to an extent, I know what I'm expecting. And then it just kind of gets better because you're no longer kind of waiting for things to happen. Yeah. And so with this one, it's like there are some, like I would say the first kind of 20 minutes of it, a little bit off center because it's like, how do you start this particular story? How do you enter into this universe? And the way they do it is it's a little bit ham-fisted, I will admit, because there's no real backstory there. And then from there, once the first act steps in, I forget the terminology Blake Snyder used. Because he's got I don't know if you ever know anything about the Hollywood beat sheet or whatever, the Blake Snyder.
Yeah. There's certain events, bing, 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 bing. Yeah.
I think it's the inciting incident. I think that's what it is. The inciting incident about page 10. When you have your inciting incident here, or at least what moves into the first act, then starts to pick up from there. And what I will say I love is like how he meets like Woody Harrelson and that group of people. I thought that was really well handled. I thought that whole thing was really great. How he did that, and because again, I don't want to say anything, I haven't seen it yet, but how he figures things out, and how he gets kind of where he's going. It just kind of keeps happening. The Chewie stuff is great. How he meets Chewie is I thought was fantastic. No. And then their budding relationship was also good. Lando was fantastic. The robots, the droid is a bit, like the SJW shit. You maybe cringe at a little bit, but at the same time, you kind of laugh at the results of what happened.
Yeah. Now there's a thing actually I've been hearing that the droid is actually supposed to be representation of Kathleen Kennedy, and that's why Lord and Miller were really fired. I mean, I don't know how much truth there is to that, but I'm like, that would be hysterical if it was. So.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe because L337 is a character like I knew that it was like droid rights that was already talked about droid rights and stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, and then you get into it, and then it was very consistent with the character, And that's kind of what I enjoyed. It wasn't like just this one thing. It was like, this is, your hubris in this regard, your not understanding of the way the world works can lead you down a path of which there's no return, which essentially is what happens here. And it's done in a way that's kind of done for comedic effect a little bit. But I found it funny that like Grace Randolph hated the character, right?
Yeah.
She hated the character. And I actually walked out going like, yeah, I don't mind it. I didn't mind it at all. And I've been one of the biggest pushes against SJWs online in like, a long time. So I just kind of like, it's not so bad. Like I just found the humor in it, I think I should say.
Yeah, I tend to think of the droid as kind of like one of the you've probably seen PCU. He's like one of the cause heads from PCU.
Dude, I grew up watching PCU. I still quote that movie to this day. I still don't be that guy. You're wearing the T-shirt of the band that you're going to go see. Don't be that guy, Gutter. Don't be.
Free Nelson Mandela, man. Nelson Mandela's already free. Oh, so yeah.
Oh, apparently my sound is too low according to this. Let me double check my sounds.
Okay.
It might have gone down. Okay, that should be a bit better. All right, it might have auto modulated. There we go. OBS is a real fucker when it comes to this kind of stuff, so I got to keep on it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if Tom wants on. He's available now. So
well, yeah, he was saying something. I saw his thing come up in the chat. He wanted to know what Discord you're on.
Yeah, we're talking on Skype, so I was like, I'll add him in. Let me add him in real quick. It'll be like a Midnight's Edge After Dark, but on my goddamn channel.
We actually, one thing we wanted to start doing again is we want to start doing the live chats like you're doing.
I just decided to do this last night. I'm all like, you know what? Fuck it, man. We'll do a live talk with this kind of stuff. I think it's more fun that way. So, hey, Tom, are you here? I added him. I don't know if he's going to join in the call or not. We'll find out.
Yeah.
But no, I think the thing is, I know it's not for everybody, but I went into it with like, basically it's simple. Let's put it like that. It's a simple thing. It's not complex. Yeah. Like The Last Jedi tried to be so complex that it ultimately killed it. Whereas this one is very straightforward. And then you got to look at it from the perspective of Ron Howard was brought in to just get it over the finish line.
Yeah.
And he did it in a serviceable enough way to where it doesn't feel like you are, like you're being beaten over the head with anything.
Yeah. It's just like, all the time, in every minute of your watching The Last Jedi, it's almost like Rian Johnson. Why don't you understand the brilliance of my work? I don't understand your way. Like, so, to me,
balls. Here we are.
Oh, there he is. There's Tom.
Here we are.
Here
Tom.
he is.
You son of a bitch.
Let me close all my Discord crap out because I was trying to get on there.
Well, because I have you guys on Skype. I'm like, it's easier just to add you guys on Skype. I like the Discord for people that I don't have on my personal Skype. So there we go.
So hello, Mundane Matt, folks. This is Tom. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir? I haven't watched your review of the movie, but I heard
you
you're
haven't.
a fan. I've been busy. I've been very busy. I had to go out of town yesterday, so I didn't get the chance to catch up on shit. So I did see.
Subtly talked about how I felt about the film.
Oh, subtly. Okay.
In a really calm voice.
Sure.
For about 7 minutes. I think I even had tea. I was that calm. No, people were like freaked out. They're like, "Oh wow, we've never heard Tom go off the handle like that."
Apparently, I have like the only positive review on YouTube from what I'm hearing. I have like one of the only positive reviews of Solo.
Andre didn't mind it so much, but yeah.
Well, actually, a lot of people were taken by surprise by Tom's tone there in that review / rant. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to fire it up and give it a listen, to see.
It's interesting
to see because you're calm now about it. You're like it's very interesting. Like, I got all my cathartic rage out on the. That was me after I saw The Last Jedi though. When I came home and I was like doing my review and I got really worked up doing my review, I was so mad at what I had just seen. I'm like, I'm doing another goddamn video about why I hate it, And then like that's what blew up. Like that blew up like 300,000 views.
Well, I think Doomcock made the best point about Solo. It may not be as bad as The Last Jedi, but it did something he thought a Star Wars movie could never do. And that was bore him, which it did. It was boring as hell. Dark, dreary. I know you disagree.
Well, the dark and the dreary, I agree with you on. I really agree.
It was.
So,
there
was
that. I said disagree. Yeah.
No. I wasn't bored. I was entertained all the way through.
Well, I'm glad you were. Well, I wasn't bored so much as just agitated. Like I was literally agitated in my seat. Couldn't like it was getting me physically like upset with the movie with the things that were happening with the Pando Calrissian stuff, with taking the droid and putting her into the Millennium Falcon, having Han basically being responsible for kickstarting the rebellion by being such a nice guy and not taking the money, that kind of crap, just all built up. Him getting his name was like the beginning of the groans, and it just got bigger and worse from there. And
the name thing was a little bit little ham-fisted in my opinion, but like at the same time, I'm kind of like, you know what, this feels like it would tie in. It's like
I liked
I'm
Chewie
by
in
myself.
But I didn't like how they met, and I felt he was way too loyal to him too quick. I didn't feel like he saved his life outright enough to where Chewie was like, yeah, I'm going to stick with this guy.
The heist scene. That was like, I mean, the thing is they didn't establish the life debt part. They should have established, because the narrative problem with that ultimately boiled down to when they're on the prison breakout, and there's the other Wookiees that are there, and it's like they're talking but there's no subtitles, which, given that we already had seen subtitles already, like, I feel it would have been good for the conversation. But I mean, through their body language, we kind of got what was going on. But I think also like Chewie was like, he saved my life, I owe him, sort of thing. But then again, I also don't think that those Wookiees were his tribe. There were other Wookiees, but they weren't the ones he was looking for. Because wasn't that a thing with like the old books?
These aren't the Wookiees you're looking for.
These aren't the Wookiees. Yeah, these aren't the Wookiees you're looking for. And so,
you ever crawl up in a Wookiee's lap, you'll never have a better nap.
Favreau was a little like, I did make the comment earlier that I would have liked the Favreau's Rio to be a bit more ethnic in his delivery.
Okay, I brought the chat up now so I can see what some of the other guys are saying here. I didn't read anything you guys said before. Sorry, I didn't see it. So
no,
yeah,
it's okay. I think I think the idea of Han being a good guy though is nothing. I think he'll do what he needs to do in the moment, and we saw this when he shot first, which I loved that he shot first. Right?
That was so fucking pandering. That was not pandering.
That was not pandering.
Man, come on.
That was not pandering.
Come on, man. And then he goes over there and he caresses him like a lost lover dying. Come on.
Because he knew. No, because he knew in that moment. Like, that was the thing. Like, that was the whole thing. In that moment, he knew what Beckett was going to do. He knew it. And so he fired first. Like, that was the moment.
So did everybody else.
But
that's
that was
the problem I had with the movie.
You're like, come on. Okay. You have to look at it from more of an introspective perspective, right? It has to be done for.
Han should have took the money and run, man.
He should have
blasting Steve Miller the whole fucking way.
Take the money and run.
I think that ties into who he is as an overall character, because he's still trying to. He still kind of views himself as a bit of an outlaw. But if he was
a young buck kid and he was being disillusioned, I could see that. But at the end of this movie, he's still goody hero, not setting him up for what he should be like 10 years down the road. Granted, there might be 2 or 3 films that are planned between now and then to get him to that point. But it just, to me, didn't feel like Solo at all. And it didn't help that Alden Ehrenreich or Orville Redenbacher or whatever you call him.
Al. I just call him Al.
Didn't really pull it off for me. But at this point, I've said this to Rob in private and Andre and stuff too. There was no way Anthony Gruber was going to save this movie at this point. I don't even know if 6 months and a rewrite would have saved the movie either. It's just, it was bland, pointless, and nobody asked for it.
Well, no one asked for Rogue One either, but that turned out pretty good.
That was decent. I could handle that, but there was nothing in that was really that damning or, in your face like this was. Like I said in my review, one of my lines was, this takes so much crap, shoves it in your face, pushes it down your throat till the elbow hits your lips, because it's that in your face a lot of times.
It's not
especially
Ghostbusters.
like the dice. Oh, it was almost as bad as Ghostbusters. Granted, Ghostbusters was worse. I'll give it that. But it was still, at some points between certain things in the story where it was just like, oh my God, they are really pushing this, and they could have been so much more subtle with a lot of this stuff and have been a little bit more enjoyable. But I'm glad people find joy in the movie. I don't want to detract anybody's joy from the movie at all. If you were able to find joy in it, great.
Oh, dude, when Maul showed up, I literally was audibly losing my shit.
Yeah, but see, now that's out of the timeline. That doesn't work right, I guess.
Would you watch Rebels?
I haven't seen it yet, but from the people I've talked to, that's what I've heard.
It's in the fucking timeline, man. It's in the timeline. Like, it's seriously in the because Maul is in Rebels season 3 and season 4, and that takes place leading into like the events going into A New Hope. This takes place about 10 years prior to that. So, from my understanding, about 10 years prior to A New Hope. So at this point, it's very You know, like
Yeah.
in the timeline, he's alive. In the timeline, he's doing shit. And now now I think we're going to get more about Maul. I think Maul's going to be the central villain that we've all wanted since 1999. We've all wanted Maul to come back since then. Admit it. You wanted.
I'm not against that, but what does that have to do with Solo, really? Unless they find a way to tie it in.
They're going to tie it in because they tied it in. I mean, in Rebels, it made sense given the context of everything in Rebels, but in this one, I don't know what their plans are for it. We obviously don't even know how things are going to pan out on Monday or Tuesday with the announcement of the movie in the box office.
It's doing 83 right now for a projected opening.
When
Is that
Not
that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's not Thursday
That's still
night.
not the point, though.
not for nothing, but when Tom told me about what they did to Darth Maul, I'm like, it made it sound like an episode of Archer when Dr. Krieger gives Rey his legs back. I mean, come on.
I mean, I was all right with Darth Maul. I was like, okay,
again,
cool.
You gotta
They're
watch.
gonna
You gotta
give him
watch
an
the
arc.
animated shows. Like there's
Oh, yeah.
it's tie-ins to that shit. And again, that could be looked at as being this pandering thing. And I'm sure people will make the claim all the time, but I viewed it as like, yeah, I've watched Rebels at least 75% of it. And so I need to go back and finish it. And then it's like that's a play on there. There was mentions of like the Terakasi, which is an old video game from 1997.
Yeah, and I liked that part. I caught that. See, those little things I didn't mind, but when they had not only prototype Solo mentioning it, and then Solo mentioning himself about going to Tatooine with this whole Jabba thing, it's like, dude, that's a little early for this, don't you think? Unless you're setting up something completely different, because the movie begins 13 years before A New Hope.
Yeah, but
Then we jump 3 years, and then it's 10 years before A New Hope. And yeah, there's even people who've been picking out some inconsistencies between the time jump and the ages and all this other stuff that I'm not even going to get into because that's just nitpicking nerd bullshit to me. But my point is it just, this movie was a mess to me, and I could feel it. I could see it in the making of it. It was like watching like a Batman v Superman / Justice League kind of thing all over again. To me, it just. Oh.
I think let's look at it too from the box office perspective. What opened last week?
Deadpool
2.
How much money did Deadpool make?
A little bit less than estimates at 125, I believe it was, for the weekend.
Right. Yeah, well, like 125, 130, right? So it made
Something like
40.
that, yeah.
It made 42 million this weekend. So how much of that was cut into Solo? A lot. I guarantee you a lot. No, because these movies, remember, they opened Avengers: Infinity War 3 weeks before Deadpool, because they didn't want to get caught in any of that shit. These movies need time to breathe.
I'm not arguing with that.
And so I think this is again Memorial Day. Okay, because this is coming from me. I used to work theaters. Like a long time I've worked at theaters. Memorial Day for the longest time was our busiest weekend of the year. We're talking 5 days of pure fucking hell, right? 5 days. Now it's like this weekend I called up my brother who works at the theater, and I'm like, how bad is it? Like, it's not that bad. People aren't going to the theater as much on Memorial Day weekend.
Solo is a big part of it, though. Everybody went and seen Avengers and seen Deadpool 2 already, and I bring this up in the Deadpool 2 I bring this up in the Deadpool 2 roundtable. Yeah, there's a lot of saturation right now, and Deadpool 2 would have done a lot better had they held it off until the middle of June.
Yeah,
when it wasn't so stuffed.
Anytime.
Everybody wants that first weekend.
Yeah, but as we've learned, these movies don't need to release in summer season, and they keep holding to this this pearl clutching of these fucking release dates. But I mean, look at like Episode 8 was supposed to come out a year ago. Right, and they pushed it to December, but it was originally slated for the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. Then they held this one, and even Mark Hamill, as I mentioned earlier in this broadcast, Mark Hamill had criticized the release date of Solo because it's like 6 months feels a little bit quick.
That I don't disagree with, because that's what I've been saying, that this movie could have used the help. But really, at this point, to be honest, not to go right off topic real quick, but I'll bring it right back, is that they should have just went with the Phil Lord and Chris Miller version.
No,
they should just said, fuck
it.
They should have put it out, and because they're not going to make their money back now with reshooting this entire movie. Otherwise, they should have held it off 6 months and let Ron Howard really have his way with the movie and rework it. Because at this point, they're just going to be out the money, plus they got a shitty movie. The other way, they may have had a shitty movie, but they wouldn't have been out the money. Or if they would have waited, they may have had a chance to make a better movie. That's a possibility. But at this point right now, with this movie making $83 million, even though it will make like over 100 and some million over the 5-day weekend, that still did not bring the audiences to the theaters. That's the problem right there. Like you said, it's Memorial Day weekend, and they are not there.
No, that's true. That's a lot of where we are right now with Hollywood. We saw this problem last summer too. This is
Yeah.
not like the thing is people who are critical who want to go in hating on Solo, at least for the box office perspective wise, they don't understand where the system has been, where it's been for years now. It's been this dwindling thing. Only a few movies hit it really big. Last summer,
Right.
you had what? You had Guardians 2 did really well.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman did fantastic. Spider-Man did really good. What
did.
was the fucking Cars 3 did pretty good. And I think Despicable Me 3 did pretty good.
I would say it was going to probably be the
Well,
bigger
yeah.
surprise hit of the summer, but yeah.
The
Yeah.
audience in the U.S. has been on the decline for over the last 10 years. The only places where the audience is growing are China and Russia,
Yeah.
and where they're opening up more digital theaters. This is not going to do well in China or Russia.
Well, in China, because
China.
they still don't have the established,
Yeah.
fan base of Solo. So, I mean, and the thing is, that's explainable. Like, that's people, and the thing is, I've seen videos like, oh, it's tanking in China. And it's like, and I've looked at it, and they're not even talking about the fact that there's been no pre-established franchise there. It's been
That's not
around 40
surprising.
years.
Yeah.
And so,
But the other places are, even Andre brought that up, that even in places where, like over there, where Star Wars is a bigger thing, nobody's going. And that's really going to hurt the box office. Now, Disney's going to come up with, or Lucasfilm is going to come up with a bunch of excuses like, oh, it's an oversaturated market, which we've said already before. Plus, they'll say, we should really stick to Christmas time. Christmas time is really the best time for Disney Star Wars instead of the summer. They're going to use that excuse.
Yep.
They're going to use all kinds of excuses to
Well,
explain.
you know
away
why
the
they
box
didn't push
office.
Solo back to Disney, back to Christmas, right? It's because Mary Poppins is coming out, and they don't.
That's
wanna,
true.
They don't want to
But-
fuck with their release date. They should just move Mary Poppins to fucking November because there's
Another-
no Marvel movie.
Yeah,
And-
another
and-
movie nobody really asked for. Yeah.
No,
Well, this is
no,
the
yeah,
thing.
no, no,
So,
no,
you
no.
know, we get a lot of gripe over here at Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark claiming we're Disney lovers. Oh, bull. No. Outside of Marvel, we'll stand up and say they don't really know how to take care of business outside of Marvel. I don't see Mary Poppins being the hit they hope it is. They haven't had a hit with any of the Pirates movies in how many years? They
Yeah.
they
Well,
put a
also
lot of
putting
money
it
into these
putting
big
a Memorial
movies,
Day.
and they don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, because you had Tomorrowland from 2015.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
tanked, and then Pirates last year, and I actually
And
enjoyed. I enjoyed
a
them.
Wrinkle in Time. Yeah.
That was March. That was March. That's not Memorial
Well-
Day, but that movie tanked too.
Yeah, but that was a
and
big movie for him. Yeah.
That was a big March release because that was also meant to take the place of what was it, Beauty and the Beast last year? Because Beauty and
Yeah.
the Beast did $1 billion in March. That's the whole point I'm trying to say here. Is like look at Black Panther February 1.3 billion. Fucking Beauty and the Beast last March 1.1 billion. You know, you can release movies outside of this bubble we find
Yeah.
ourselves in. And I'm so frustrated with the studio system now because I feel like, like I like Solo. You guys, Tom may not have liked it. Rob hasn't seen it, but I hope he enjoys it. And, so it's very much like this, but they fuck with it. And it's these pre-established release dates that I think are really really hurting the process.
Well, there's really only one time that's really bad to release a movie, and there's a couple times. They always say August is the worst time to release a movie because
That's
you're
what they
dumping it
say,
at
though.
the end of the blockbuster season. Kids are getting ready to go back to school, and directly after the new year. But I even think you can have a hit after New Year's. I mean, really, we've seen that there really is no blockbuster season anymore, and I think this really would have benefited from pushing the release date back. I mean, even if you drop it in August 1st or whatever, like they did Guardians of the Galaxy, the first film, having this have a release date all its own would have been more beneficial. And I think
yeah, sorry.
yeah, I think I don't know if anybody would have been kinder to it, but at the same time, it would have had just all the focus on it.
Well, that. Thank you, Rob, because that leads right into what I was just about to say, and that is that you also have the problem of you open this up so close to The Last Jedi, not giving too much credence to any of these movements or boycott movements or any of that kind of stuff. Just aside, you have a lot of people who are still angry about all that, and then you're going to release this right on the heel of that and not expect a lot of people to be like, Psh, I'll wait for video or I ain't going to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get that kind of an attitude, especially after what we've gone through with Rian Johnson for the last 6 months, having to explain everything to the fans and trying to make them feel like idiots if they don't like something, it gets irritating.
Oh,
Like I
I know.
said,
I really get frustrated at that stuff. It's just like it makes it difficult to even have the conversation because I'm sure you guys have noticed when it comes at least to the YouTube side of things.
Oh yeah.
There's this big push, like, it's very, very, very popular to shit on Star Wars. And so it's like looking for anything you can to attack it. And I think we've all kind of done content like that. But it's like leading into this particular film, I started realizing that I'm like, no, the more I think about it, the more I'm actually excited to see it, because I really want to. I got to take it on an individual, on an individual case by case basis. Because looking at like yes, I agree. Like the way Johnson handled Last Jedi was just bad. The way that Kathleen Kennedy backed him by giving him a trilogy was just even worse. The constant middle finger to critics. And as I pointed out earlier, and I don't know if you guys are listening, but I made the comment about the movie bloggers are going to they're going to defend Kathleen Kennedy to the end of time. They're going to always defend her, saying that she knows what's right for Star Wars, even though you can tell that she doesn't. And I will give Grace Randolph credit for at least suggesting that maybe she doesn't like the franchise.
Well, I've been saying it for a while. I've been an avid supporter of her up until recently, where I've gotten to this point where I'm like, she really is doing all the shit that these guys are saying she's doing. Before, I didn't really notice it so much. Or I'm just like, oh, they're taking it too far because they're just looking for something to target.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm sorry, Tom. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I've taken the tact. I don't know if that's the proper phrase for it. That Kathleen Kennedy really isn't a creative person. She doesn't. It's apparent she doesn't know anything about storytelling. She doesn't know anything about writing, and all the success she's had, she has just ridden someone else's coattails. She's been very fortunate to work with George Lucas, Robert Zemeckis, Steven Spielberg. And yeah, okay, her name is attached to a lot of these big franchises, but it's kind of like being on the bench on a really good team. I mean, the Chicago Bulls were going to win regardless if Scott Burrell was coming off the bench, for those 5 or 6 minutes. I think we're seeing that I don't want to say that she doesn't have any idea what she's doing, because as a producer on the business side, she might, but on the creative side, I think her management style leaves something to be desired.
Not to interrupt you, Rob, but that's exactly where I think the problem is she knows exactly what the fuck she's doing. That's where I'm starting to get upset, and I know a lot of other people are. It's like, wait a minute, she's starting to do this shit on purpose.
Yeah,
like a lot of the shit that she's trying to do now with this Forces Feminine shit, and I guarantee you she had a lot to do with that damn robot. And there's some people who've been trying to stick, it was very subtle my ass. They basically had a joke about him fingering her. They had
really?
They had this whole thing.
I'd say, I mean,
you got to do that thing with your finger later, or whatever it was she said. Yeah, and then they had the whole scene between her and Kira where they're talking about how he's into me, but I'm not into him. It's like, come on. It's like,
well, no, but then there's also the follow up to that one too of like, wait, how would it work? And then she looks away, she goes, it works. And I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was pretty funny. I actually liked it. I liked it.
They were like, okay, but then they had to even go with the capes and shit. It's like, here we go. We got Liberace Pando Calrissian.
I wish my brother George were here. So that joke sold a good vote. But like I said, but like I said, she knows what she's doing, but every decision she's making is a bad one. In other words, so
she's doing it on purpose because she's trying to make Star Wars woke. I hate to say this because Midnight's Edges does not have any political side whatsoever. We don't try to get into politics, religion, or any of that kind of stuff. But when we see bullshit, we got to call it out. When we see moral grandstanding, just like with Star Trek Discovery and with Ghostbusters, we got to call it out. It's like, we're not like in the alt-right. We don't believe in all this crap. But that's not the point here. The point is, if you're going to sit there and morally grandstand on something that's always been diverse, of course we're going to call bullshit on that.
And Tom and I were talking about this, actually. Star Wars is one of the most asexual film series ever. As far as we know, only two people have ever had sex in the Star Wars trilogy, and that was Anakin Skywalker and Han and Leia.
When they had chicken and Jabba, that's questionable, but
that's the jury's still out on that. Yeah,
I'm looking at Kathleen Kennedy's Wikipedia page right here, and looking at just her list of accolades, because she's been working with Spielberg since 1979.
Right.
And on 1941, she was working for the screenwriter, and ended up becoming his assistant, and then kept going from there. And then she's been. I mean, you're looking at this, just the list of things she's been involved in. So maybe she absolutely knows. I mean, she fucking knows the industry here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're talking like Back to the Future, Goonies, Arachnophobia, Joe versus the Volcano, Schindler's List, Jurassic Park.
Well, and that's funny you mentioned Jurassic Park. Well, not funny because it's in the list, but see, we've recently gotten some stuff we're looking into that she may have been involved in what went wrong with Jurassic Park 3 because she got a little power hungry on that situation. So there you go.
Wait, are you sure we're not talking Jurassic Park 2?
No, I'm thinking Jurassic Park 3 because Spielberg was still involved with Jurassic Park 2, and I'll stand up for Jurassic Park 2. I love Jurassic Park 2.
We will have to have a retrospective on that one, sir.
I love Jurassic Park 2.
I know. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it at all. I liked it quite a bit because
the last 15 minutes in San Diego? Yeah,
San Diego. Yeah, San Diego.
Some of the best shit in modern movies in a long time up to that point. I loved that. That was awesome, having a T-Rex running down. And I'm a Godzilla fan, so that helps. But and I love Jeff Goldblum's character in that. I mean, don't get me wrong, it has its moments, but between that scene and that raptor scene in the compound when you've got the 3 trails coming after those guys, it's like, oh yeah, here we go, shit's on.
Well, and I loved that the Mummy Returns actually parodied that or copied that. And, and I thought that was a really cool use of that old thing. So I've been on for like a little over 2 hours. I need to wrap this up here in a few minutes.
Problem.
But
we got
some
this.
Okay, yeah.
Well, no, I'm having fun. I want to do more of these. I think these are a lot of fun. Having conversations that, we need to do this more often and shit. Do it live. It's a lot better with an audience. But let me ask you guys this then. Fine. So Tom, you did not like the movie.
I did not. And somebody asked what we thought the chances of making Boba Fett a female. I doubt it. But yes, go ahead.
No. I don't think that would a trans.
We got
Boba
a few
Fett
other questions in here. Sorry we didn't get to them, guys.
No, that's all right. But let me ask you guys this. Before we kind of wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
Do you think that is there any way at this point to steer the ship correctly?
Get Kevin Feige to take it? I don't know.
Or Dave Filoni.
Actually, there's Dave Filoni. That's the name that keeps coming up, and it's getting somebody in there who not only understands the universe but loves it and wants to take care of it. Even more so than George Lucas, because let's face it, George Lucas has really wanted to get out from under Star Wars for many, many years. He dabbled in selling Star Wars selling Star Wars to Disney way back before the prequels. He had thought about it. Yeah. So, I mean, this was like never anything that wasn't out of the realm of possibility back then, let alone now.
Well,
we really do need somebody who does want to care for this and not just have an agenda like Kathleen Kennedy obviously does.
Here's the thing, too, because looking at her list of accolades here, there's a big ass gap.
Right? And Andre says hi, guys, by the way.
Oh, hey, Andre. We all need to come on and do a talk about some shit, too, because I miss talking with Andre. So the movie she last produced before going over and working with Lucas was Lincoln 2012, right? Spielberg's there. Because she was with DreamWorks, I think, for the longest time. Yeah. And so then she jumped over to being the co-chairman of Lucasfilm in 2012, the summer of 2012, mere 4 months 4 months before the sale went through of Lucasfilm, right, to Disney. Yeah. Then she became the president of the company. So I think Lucas brought her in order to have her take over. Probably
it was his choice. Yes.
Yeah, probably at also the suggestion of Spielberg. But then there was nothing from 2012 to 2015 with Star Wars, and from there she went on to be an exec producer on the BFG, probably just in name only. Helping out a little bit.
I think her production company and Spielberg's and all that's tied together. I think she's part of Amblin, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably. But then also she was uncredited exec producer on Girl on the Train. So those are 2016. But then from there, it's Rogue One, Star Wars Last Jedi, Solo: A Star Wars Story, Episode 9, and then an unnamed Indiana Jones film, and also Boba Fett and maybe the Obi-Wan movie. So if you look at,
I know the name of the Indiana Jones movie. It's Indiana Jones and Where the Fuck Did My $12 Go?
We had that movie 10 years ago.
Yeah, that was $10.
Indiana Jones and the Fountain of Metamucil.
I don't know. I'm on board with Indiana Jones.
I hope they fix it. Yes, but I'm not.
But I think it depends on who they get to direct it.
And speaking of Spielberg, I will say this about Solo and Spielberg, since it was his idea to get Alden Ehrenreich, why the fuck didn't he direct it? That's what pisses me off too. It's like, okay, you picked this kid. Why didn't you come on to make sure he was going to do the job right?
I think he did a good job. I liked him in the role.
It was all ADR, man. And even that sucked.
But Tom brings up a good point, though. I mean, there seem to be with the exception of J.J. Abrams. I mean, they seem to be getting these directors that have maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 credits under their belt, and it just looks like she's looking for people that are more agreeable, so that she can put her vision out there.
Yeah.
rather than finding guys who do have because. And I've been saying this to Tom for ages now. Where the fuck was Joe Johnston in all this? Joe Johnston, who worked for Lucasfilm, who directed Captain
Ben
America:
Burtt,
First Avenger. Yeah, Brad Bird, guys like that.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
Well,
guys-
Brad Bird did Tomorrowland, and that was a mistake. So,
We'll-
so
we'll
Well,
forgive
we
him
all-
for
we all
that.
have
but
a stinker under
Mission
our
Impossible, Mission Impossible 4 is pretty good. So there's that, right? I
Yeah.
mean, just is that.
But-
Yeah.
But I mean,
I have Tomorrowland. I
Because-
haven't watched it yet, so I can't say for sure on that. But I know it
Because-
flopped.
if we're gonna make an analogy though, like Star Wars, it is kind of like Tom said, it is kind of like a classic car. It's like that '65 Mustang, and you want to baby it, and you want to pamper it, and you know, no, not that oil. Put this oil in, you know, oh yeah, you have to get the right parts, and everything has to come together. Because when you break down a classic car, you know, it's tires, it's screws, it's a radiator, but when you put it all together, it's something special. And that's kind of like what I see Star Wars as. Yes, it's all these other parts, but when it comes together, it is this special thing. And you do need someone that knows and loves the series. And someone, like I said, someone like Joe Johnston, who was working with Lucas for ages, and someone like Steven Spielberg, someone, like I said, like Brad Bird, someone who would actually be able to stand up to Kathleen Kennedy and say, "Come on, this is bullshit. You know that's bullshit. Come on."
Or
Just
Solo
trust
would
me.
never say that, or Solo would never
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah.
Well, I think
and-
the next movie will probably, because you know they're going to do a sequel. They're still. It doesn't matter if the movie stumbled out of the gate. It's still going to make enough to warrant a sequel. They're just not going to do it on fucking, you know, on Memorial Day weekend. I don't think we're going to see another Star Wars come out on Memorial Day weekend at all. But I agree with you. I think they need to bring somebody in that obviously respects the franchise, that wants to treat it with the same respect that it needs. And I think Joe Johnston would have been good because let's be fair, he made Jurassic Park 3 watchable.
Yes. And I freaking love Captain America: The First Avenger. I mean, that to me, that's
But the
one of
answer to your
best Marvel
question,
movies.
though, Rob, maybe the reason he isn't on board is because of Jurassic Park 3. So we may get into that in a mini documentary. But speaking of solo roundtables, maybe we'll have to have you on, Matt. But I don't know. It might be kind of one-sided on your
That's fine. I don't mind. You know me. You guys know me well enough to know I don't mind the fight.
because
don't
Andre's
mind-
actually going to be gone. So right now, and this is news to
oh.
Rob too. This just come down from Andre, and hopefully he can join us. But then at this moment, if you're in, the roundtable will be Rob, myself, of course, Doomcock, and you. So
Oh Jesus! Yeah, that's
overlord.
totally not like movie blood sports right there.
I was going to say that's
like,
a little
it's,
lopsided.
it's a little lopsided. That's okay. That's okay. I will watch the movie again and I'll come prepared to fucking fight because that's how I do these things. And you guys know this well enough about me that I will definitely bring them down. Oh fuck, my goddamn camera keeps going out of fucking focus. You know, it's a $2,000 camera. You think it'd stay in fucking focus?
Well, we break ours. That's why Rob and I don't have one. So
Yeah, I'm just not gonna worry about Jesus. Sir. But I
I
do
have
need to
a face
yeah.
for radio.
Yeah, it's completely out of focus right now too. But I do got to run because I gotta check. I gotta
All right.
do some stuff. But listen, to everyone watching, thank you for hanging out for the last 2 hours and 11 minutes
Yeah, it's
going
been
over
fun.
this movie. I loved having everyone come on to talk. Thank you very much to Rob and Tom from Midnight's Edge. Check
Thank
out Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark,
Yeah.
where there's lots of swearing.
Oh, yeah.
And also, thanks to Spirit Man Studios for coming on before. If you guys are, look, here's the thing. Solo is a movie that's going to be divisive amongst fans, but I do feel ultimately that in the long run, it's going to have, it's going to be looked at more favorably than The Last Jedi. You know, I do think that. I think one day even Tom might go, I don't hate it as much. And I'm going to hold
Then that's a very low bar.
I don't know. You're
Hey,
asking for a lot.
I'm an optimist. What can I say? I'm an optimist going in.
Because I seriously have not felt this betrayed by a film since Ghostbusters or TMNT Out of the Shadows. That's how bad it was for me. I was just like, really?
I haven't seen TMNT Out of the Shadows yet.
Oh, don't waste your
I
time.
haven't, and I'm a huge Bebop and Rocksteady fan.
I'll tell you this right now, Bebop and Rocksteady. This is one of the reasons why I just totally lost it for me. They turned into a warthog and a rhinoceros because fuck logic. It doesn't matter. That's your inner. You turn into whatever your inner beast is. That's the excuse they use in this film. And I'm like, really? It's pretty sad when the cartoon from the 80s has a better reason for these guys mutating into these animals than they do here. When all it would have took is just a vial of blood that said rhinoceros and a vial of blood that said warthog into the mix, and you'd have been okay. I can buy that. But no,
Yeah.
they had to screw that much up, and that's just the epitome of the entire movie right there. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it was.
Well,
it was
I
bogus.
feel I'll need to. I'll still probably one day check it out. There's so much I have to still fucking see. So yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again. I'll come on your guys' show and we'll fight it out. We'll hash it out about the movie. Be a lot of fun. And
We'll
I
talk
really,
about a lot of Colt 45. That's for sure.
I really appreciate you guys being here. I really appreciate everyone watching. I think we hit a peak of about 125 people, which is pretty fantastic for
wow.
Sunday on a holiday weekend. And so I appreciate everyone checking it out. And I will see you guys later.